I'm going to call the meeting to order for the July 12th, 2017 Mashpee School Committee Business Meeting. First item of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item is public comment. Looks like the public hasn't found us yet to comment for the new fiscal year. Next item is acknowledgements. Do we have any
I have none.
We have none? All right. Moving on, item number 5 on the agenda, approval of minutes from June 7th, 2017. The minutes were in your packet. The only comment that I wanted to make in regard to the minutes was just to make sure under item 8, in regard to the measuring the impact of the full day preschool program, that we don't lose sight of that as we move forward here in FY18. Unfortunately, that's not a numbered page, but you see that? So I just want to make sure that, I just want to make sure that we follow up on that at a later date once school starts. Okay? Because oftentimes we talk about stuff and then we tend to forget about it. Any other comments or edits to the minutes? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
Move to approve the minutes of June 7th, 2017 as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
So, motion by Jeff, second by Chris. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Nicole?
Yes.
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 And yes. So 4 and 1 abstention with George, who was not at that full meeting. All right, moving right on. We're actually ahead of schedule.
Yay. Let's keep it up.
And Jinx.
This is only going to take about an hour, so. Hello. Am I on? Okay.
Gus, can you scoot the table up a little bit closer? The fan makes it a little bit harder to hear.
You have to be
Gotcha.
a furniture mover as
We
well.
good?
Yeah, that's good.
All right. Hello, everyone. Especially Miss Bartlett. I've not had the pleasure yet.
Yep, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. First thing, everyone has heard this 2 years ago, except for Miss Bartlett, so I think we can go over it pretty quick. Just to recap what the lunch price equity situation is, the federal government puts together a minimum figure each year for what the minimum average weighted price for paid lunches. Has nothing to do with free or reduced. Free is free and reduced is 40 cents. These are just paid lunches. The reason they do this every year is because of the resources we receive in the form of money for reimbursement as well as food. They want to make sure that we're not using those resources to subsidize the paid lunches and keep that price down. We get those resources, at least the majority of it, to take care of the free and reduced students. So they come up with this figure every year, and we have to meet that minimum. So 2 years ago, we were way behind, and we not only met the minimum, we went ahead a little bit, took a guess where it might be the following year, just so we didn't have to do this every year. Worked out perfect. We're like within a penny the end of FY17. Going into FY18, the little graph that's in your packet, the current pricing going into this next school year, we are 9 cents below the minimum. So then right below that, I have proposed pricing that should get us not only be compliant through FY18, but also FY19. And then on the bottom of that page, just to give you an idea of the history, what that has increased each year. If it increases another 8 cents for FY19, if we go with my proposal there, we're going to be golden, so we won't have to discuss this for another 2 years. So the proposal is currently the lunch price at the high school is $2.85. That would go to $3. Quashnet is $2.75. That would go to $3. Casey Coombs is $2.65. That would go to $2.75. So that brings us our weighted average price is $2.94. The minimum right now is $2.86, so that puts us 8 cents above, which I feel pretty confident just based on the history that next year's number is going to be right around $2.94 that we have to meet, so we won't have to do this again next year. Questions?
Is the only disparity between Casey Coombs and the other two schools just because of the way the weighted average works out for that school?
Casey Coombs, I mean, just like why our number was a little less there,
Right.
because they don't get the choices. We have two options: offer or versus serve. Casey Coombs, we serve all 5 components. They don't get choices. At Quashnet in the high school, they get multiple choices. They got, in addition to what's on there, you see on the printed menu every month, they have a la carte options or alternate entree options. The biggest thing that takes money is all the fresh produce. We have fresh as well as canned fruit, salads every day. We used to offer that as like an entree. We have tossed salads every day, and that stuff's pricey. And the high school there used to be like 3 prices. We're finding that Quashnet, because of all the produce and stuff, we spend as much money here as we do at the high school. So we can keep the Casey Coombs down a little bit because we serve exactly the amount that we're supposed to, and they don't get other options.
Gotcha, thank you.
So Gus, you're proposing that we go to $3 for FY18 and 19. Is that correct?
Correct. I'm proposing this, we don't revisit this in a year because we're going above that minimum. I mean, we could just meet the minimum. You're still going to increase every school, and I'll be back here next July with the new minimum, raising it again.
Is there any prohibition that would prohibit us from approving an increase this year and an increase next year at the same time?
No, we can, but it just seems like if you go every year and try to get more money, it seems like it's a little better received if you can go a couple years before you're raising the prices again.
So says the Postal Service.
I'm sorry?
I said, so says the Postal Service.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, when I did the math for Quashnet, it's going up 9% in 1 year.
Well, these numbers, if you look at the number of paid lunches on the left,
Yeah.
those are the number of paid lunches in the month of October of each year. So these were actually October 2016 numbers. That's the numbers you have to grab. And you put in the price, and there it is. Like the percentage.
No, I know, but we're going from $2.75 to $3, right?
Yeah.
So that's a 9% increase in 1 year.
Well, if you
And
take.
I guess my question to you is it necessary to do that 9% in 1 year, or can that be spread over 2 years?
No, well, we can go to $2.95 at the high school, $2.85 at Quashnet, $2.75 at Coombs. Everybody goes up 10 cents.
Okay.
We'll be 1 cent over the minimum. So I will be back next year, and then we're going to do it again, because it'll be a new minimum. You know what I mean? Like the minimum's just for FY18.
Right, but if we approved an increase based on your recommendation over 2 years, versus 1 year. You're telling us that you think that that will suffice for 2 years,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm losing track of is, why can't I split that increase, have half of it this coming year and half of it the following year,
Well,
so
the-
that I don't impact the
Okay.
families quite as much in 1 year?
We can go with the figures I just mentioned. That'll bring you right to the minimum now.
Yeah.
But if you take a look at the comparison chart, which will compare you to other schools, all the figures on here are this year's pricing. So some of these schools are going up, and we're just matching some of the local schools right around us. We're not as expensive as some of the other schools. For example, Falmouth is $350 at their high school.
Right, but you're recommending the high school go to $3, which
$3.
is still a bargain.
I think it's a bargain at all three schools. If you come down and take a look at what we have on the line here at Quashnet compared to what we've had in the past back years, it's looking more like the high school with all the fresh stuff that they have to choose from every day. And it's unlimited amounts too, which adds to cost.
So, if I may, Don, so to go what Don was saying, would you be adverse to saying, okay, it's 20 cents per school broken over 2 years. So this year it's 10 cents raised, and then next year we vote on it now, and it takes effect for the next school year, as opposed to the 10% raise at Quashnet. I think that's where he's getting at, to kind of lessen the burden a little bit.
Well,
It's
you
already
can't.
approved. Say again.
It's not 20 cents a school.
I was just trying to do an even number because one of them's 15 cents, and we can't, evenly split that. It's the OCD in me. So.
All right, if you go 10 cents at every school, you'll be at the minimum for 1 year. You'll be
Each
good for
year.
FY18.
Each year, I'm talking about each year for the next 2 years.
It'll probably be another 10 cents next year.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right, so
But-
if we approved a 20% or 20-cent increase divided equally over 2 years, would that not meet the minimum for this year and maybe for next year? Because you're telling me next year's a guess anyway, right?
Yeah, but if you look at the history,
So
we
if-
did this 2 years ago, and it
Okay.
worked out, and it's probably going to be about another 7 or 8 cents for FY19.
right.
And
So
we're
if you
saying
go-
we increase it to
so if
10
you go-
cents.
So then the high school would be 305.
No.
You said 20 cents.
So 20 cents
Everywhere,
over
right?
2 years. So
Right,
this
so-
year it would be 295, 285, 275.
Okay,
Next year
that's
it would be
the-
305.
Well, next
make me
year,
do the math.
if we're not looking to do 2 years, then I won't even comment on next year, the FY19, because I'll have the new minimum then, and that's what we'll aim for exactly. Now I'm looking to have it 8 cents above,
Right.
so that it's going to
I
carry.
think for some reason we're confusing it. Yeah.
Let me ask a slightly different question then. Do we need the extra revenue from the 8 cents that's going to be generated
No.
in order to support the operations?
No, the bottom line is, do you want to raise prices every year? Most school districts don't. We haven't done it. But if you want to do it year by year, then we can do that. So to meet the minimum, the proposal would have to be everybody goes up 10 cents. I played different numbers, but because there's different numbers of lunches at each school, that affects that weighted price. So the one that came out the easiest was everybody went up 10 cents, and it puts us 1 cent over the minimum. That was the one that came up closest. I played with it a little bit, and it would come out 283 and whatever. It wasn't. This is the one that worked. That was real simple, just an extra dime at every school.
May I ask a question, Gus? So I think the proposal, what jumps out at you is if you're a Quashnet parent, the rate's going up a quarter, and everywhere else it's going up less. So high school's going up 15 cents, you know, Coombs is going up a dime. So it just seems, and the rationale for that, as I understand it, is it's more expedient to do the increase now, anticipating that we're going to have to come back and do this again next year. Is that?
Yeah, but also Quashnet could stand to come up a little bit more because
it
of what
has been a little
we do
low.
here. Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
And you don't dip into other pots, right? So Quashnet's revenue is
Right.
Quashnet's revenue, Casey Coombs is Casey Coombs. Is
No,
it one bucket or is it three buckets?
One bucket.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the high school helps carry some of the other schools just with all their a la carte stuff. You know, they have chips and cookies, all that stuff that they sell a fair amount of that stuff.
15, 20, 40, 10, 50. It's 50 cents.
It really doesn't add a whole lot. Like if you look
Total.
at the bottom line of the monthly revenue, it really doesn't add too much based on those numbers the lunch is sold. It's simply being in compliance. And since I'll be reviewed next year,
For
We
individual big
want that.
purpose, you know, big overview math purposes, each person that would be affected. So a Quashnet student family, it'd be $45 a year if a student was to get 180 days worth of lunch every day. The increase would be $45 a day. I'm sorry, a year. Apologize. The high school would be $27 and the Casey Coombs would be $18. Just so, if anybody doesn't feel like doing the math.
I did not feel like doing that, so I appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm sure someone will do the math and they're going to do that. So, any other questions for Gus?
I just, you know, the optics of it, I get you. I understand where you're coming from. You know, it's the same pot you said, so even though Quashnet needs to be raised a little bit, the raise is the raise, right? The revenue goes in the same
Right.
pot.
I really modeled this after what we did 2 years ago,
I know.
which flew through.
it
And
did.
now, exactly, no,
The
but
fan
I mean,
cooled it off in here, so I'm.
no, I had plenty of questions from you, but
Yeah.
like I got the impression that going for the 2 years, and we had a huge increase last time because we were 25 cents under the minimum, and we not only fixed that, we went 10 cents, or it's like 7 cents, 8 cents above that. So based on that experience is why I went with the 2 year, thinking you don't want to do this every
Well,
year.
we're still not moving past. We're not arguing against 2 years.
Yeah,
We're
but
just trying to lessen the blow to the
all right,
Quashnet.
I guess when I look at what everyone else is paying, that it's not out of line at all. All we're doing is matching some pricing that was current in FY17, and some of these schools are going up next year. So we're always going to be behind them. These are the same schools that we were behind 2 years ago.
The proposal that Don and I were talking about is actually more of a raise over 2 years than you requested. But the optics of it are easier to digest because it's a 10-cent raise per school per year. I mean, so it's a 60-cent raise overall
Right,
over the
but
2 years, and you're requesting a 50-cent raise now over the 2 years. So we're not pushing back on you for how much money you'd like to raise the prices for. We're just trying to say, instead of a 25-cent raise over 2 years, let's do two 10-cent raises. I'm sorry, a 25-cent raise over a year,
Three.
let's do two 10-cent raises for each school.
If we're not going to, if we're just going to do 1 year, that's fine. Then let's just do 10 cents, because then next year, then we'll get the new
No, we're
figure.
not doing 1 year. We're
gonna
all
vote
very
on
comfortable
two.
about doing a 2-year approval, but it's 10 cents per year. I'm
No, I get
stepping
it.
back. I just,
That is
yeah,
good.
I don't want to.
No, because
stir your
high
meat
school is
issue.
going to go up to 305. I get it. It's
Yeah. 305, 290, yeah, 290.
I mean, I think what we're discussing here is being able to make a decision that has an effect over multiple years, that instead of having a day one impact. And if we need to come back because something else changes that we couldn't anticipate, then we'll have to come back next year and have that discussion. But we're trying to avoid having that discussion, be able to provide, I think, some clarity to the parents in regard to what they're going to be paying for next year, and to the extent that we're potentially making a decision for the following year.
Okay. I have to go and put this in this actual Excel spreadsheet, and put those numbers in that you're talking about, 20 cents at each school, because that's going to affect it differently than my proposed one. And then, quite frankly, I'm not even sure what they multiply that, but then they average the 3, whatever. It's not just an average. So I don't know if you
That's a weighted average, I got it.
if you go up 10 cents with the idea we're going to do 10 cents next year. I know that the 10 cents right now at every school will put us a penny above the minimum. I don't know the actual numbers where it's going to be at next year going into FY19. So if it ends up being a couple cents below,
No, I understand, because the question, there's more lunches, there's more weight to it, I understand.
Right.
Yeah, I got it. So,
I mean, I think it'll be very close, the 10 and 10,
yeah.
but I don't know.
But I appreciate the discussion, and I always defer to your responsibility, because you are the head food service guru. So.
I don't know if I'm guru, but
Chris, can you read those numbers again that you said?
$45
For-
for the Quashnet,
Uh-huh.
$27 for the high school, and $18 for KCC.
Thanks.
So could we potentially, rather than say a dime, rather than say a specific number increase, approve numbers with a dime increase, and then approve now these numbers that are proposed for the second year? So rather than say a dime this year, a dime next year, say, set the lunch prices at $2.95, $2.85, $2.75, and then for 19, $3, $2.75.
Well,
you
Can we not do that?
Well, the problem that is, I understand what Gus is saying, is he has to hit a weighted average price. So, and I'm assuming that $17,580 is the total revenue that you need to get in order to get to that weighted average price based
no,
upon.
it's just, I mean, it totals that column to that, but they're not looking for a certain revenue, they're just looking for the average price.
Right, but
I don't-
if you have the total price divided by the number of lunches you're serving, that's the price
Okay.
No, because it's different
Multiply.
weights per school.
in total, though, right?
Yeah.
And it's weighted by each school. So
Right.
And then this will
So
also
this
change
number-
for
this one
FY19
changes
because
the
the
number.
number of lunches in this little chart for FY19 is going to be based on October of 2017. So I can't even, like right now,
Yeah.
change this by a dime and get an accurate figure because the number of paid lunches is going to change that I have to use. You know what I mean? You always go back to the, whatever, October. I think that's a big month for reporting for you, right? October's the month that they take all their numbers from and carries
But
into the next year.
Actually, like Chris's idea. And because at the end of the 2 years, we're meeting exactly what you're asking.
But even if we're going to have to meet next year, even though you already have it, the idea that we're going to go up another 10 cents next year, we're still going to have to touch base and
Yeah, it
we're
could
not
be-
going to announce it that we're going up
Sure.
10 cents and then 10 cents.
But there's
right?
there's the risk of that either way. I mean, you said maybe we were way under last time. We raised it
Oh,
substantially.
that won't happen again.
No, but
we
I
got
mean,
way
we don't
behind.
know that by approving these recommendations that we're going to be under the weighted average in next year's
FY19?
time. We don't know that,
No, but
but we're kind of
the history is just shown. I mean, it doesn't go up 15 cents, that weighted price. It's gone up a nickel to 8 cents in that range every year. I have no idea how they come up with that number, but so
I guess I would like to make a motion that we approve an increase to meet the minimum for FY18, and we will revisit this next year.
okay, so
So that'd be
just a dime at each school
10
flat.
10 cents at each school.
All right. Now we got to get rolls and nickels for the change. What's that?
That's a very good comment.
Correct.
'Cause this
So
rate was
high school would
dollar
be
bill change, and this raises quarters and dollars.
would be
I think we have to get nickels
295.
and dimes for change.
Quasha would be 285.
Yeah,
Coombs
most
would be
people use
270.
The
Cards though,
online
right?
thing, it's, you don't have it online.
And
you know,
yeah,
they
this will
would
this
do it
will
there.
this will
Whatever that's called.
Most kids use the
bring us in
cards.
compliance for
True that. I got you.
FY18.
No, I'm good. I'm supporting.
So-
No discussion by me.
So, I have
I-
I have a motion to approve a 10-cent increase. Do I have a second for discussion purposes on
I have a
second.
question.
that? Okay. So we have a second. So I made the motion. Yes, for each school
Yeah.
would go up 10 cents
Can I-
for FY18.
Nicole had something to say as
I
well,
made-
so,
hold on.
yeah, sorry.
I made the motion. Chris
second.
seconded. Okay. Now, Nicole.
So, I think the increase on Quashnet feels a bit disproportionate. Maybe it's because they were under, but I think we have to walk out among our peers and say we voted a $45 increase for Quashnet families. That's a little, so I would think, I'm, what you're saying is okay, but I'm okay with the proposed pricing, putting these increases in place, except for the Quashnet one. Why can't we just make it equitable like the other increases, and then we kind of hold that and see how it goes? Like, so it would be $3 for the high school, $2.85 for Quashnet, and $2.75 for Coombs. And then that kind of puts everybody kind of getting an even increase at each school. It feels more proportionate, rather than arbitrarily just adding a dime. Or maybe that doesn't get us as far as we need to be.
No, what
It
you're
gets us to
proposing then.
289, well,
No, we're still above because to get to the minimum, it's just 275, 285, 295. So you're saying 3, and
Yeah, when I
then
did the
275 and 2.
if we make Quashnet 285
85.
instead of 3, that gets you to 289 for the weighted average price. So you're kind of in the middle.
Right, because you're still going to stay at $3 at the high school.
Right.
So yeah, no, that's fine.
So that was just an alternative, Don, that I would.
No, that's. So that would be a 4% increase. So we'd be looking at basically 5% increase at the high school, 4% at Quashnet, and a 4% rounded at Casey Coombs.
How do you believe
I
that would
think
affect?
I think Jeff had some
How do you
additional.
believe that would affect the weighted average for 19?
For
By
FY19,
removing that 15 cents from Washington, do you think that'll? Obviously, you don't have the numbers, but do you anticipate that it might still meet for 19?
we're going to need a little bit, but the high school next year, maybe that'll stay at 3 because that was working, and then maybe Quashnet would go to 3, and maybe the other two just need to get tweaked. We're going to be a couple cents ahead based on this year's numbers. And then we just got to wait for next October's numbers. I mean, I can, as soon as October, I can take the paid lunches and plug them into this and get our weighted. I don't have to wait till the end of the year. I have to wait till the end of the year to find out what the minimum is. But if we'll know where we're at, and we can. So you can know long before the end of the year, even like what we might be looking at.
All right. That makes sense. So I'm going to withdraw my motion. And then
Aye.
Nicole, you'll need to make your motion.
Okay, you're okay.
I'm withdrawing my motion. So now you're going to make a new motion.
I love how you shook your head like, no, that's silly. Why would we have to second the withdrawal? Okay, so.
Because you have voted on
I
it.
know. Okay, so I move that we accept.
Excuse me.
I don't know how to move this, but that the pricing, to approve the increase of $3 for the high school, $2.85 for Quashnet, and $2.75 for the Coombs School.
And is that for
For fiscal,
FY18?
for FY18.
For FY18, right?
Is that right, Gus?
Correct.
Okay. So $3, $2.85, and $2.75 is the motion. Do I have a second for that?
Second.
Thank you, Jeff. Further discussion on that motion.
So we're comfortable that we are going to have to revisit this stuff in
like,
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah.
I
But October will be nice. You'll know in October.
I do this every year. I just didn't have to talk to you last year about it.
Yeah,
We
so
like seeing you anyway.
what was the,
Yeah, it's
what
always
was the
nice.
weighted average? How much did it go up from last year to this year?
8 cents.
8 cents. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, so the weighted average total increase was 6.1%. So we're holding the line a little bit
Okay.
based on this revision. Which-
It's good stuff.
All right. Hearing no further discussion, Nicole, how do you vote?
Yes.
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 And yes. All right.
All right.
Well, that just put us back behind schedule.
Yeah. If it's okay, I'd like to go to 6.3, just the food service equipment, because that should be very brief. You're not going to get a lot of answers tonight, but I'll explain what the plan is over the next 2 months, and you'll get more of an answer. So I guess it was Mr. Myers, you had spoken with Superintendent DeBoer. You wanted to get like a 5-year capital plan kind of idea of what kind of equipment.
Yeah, I mean, the committee had talked about this
Yeah, a lot.
previously, and so knowing that you were going to be coming in front of
Yep.
us, wanted to reach out, see where we were as
Okay.
far as developing this up.
So in your packet, you have the equipment list ending FY17, and the column all the way to the right, all those X's means all that equipment is fully depreciated. Some of it's really old, but not all that equipment would need to be replaced. There's stuff on here that is just sitting in there, hasn't been used, is not needed. Probably the biggest thing right now, we're getting a couple new ovens already this year at the Casey Coombs, but the biggest thing is the status of refrigeration, the big refrigeration, walk-in coolers and freezers. When I have my preventive maintenance done in August, the company comes in, they go to every piece of refrigeration. I'm going to ask them to, it's nothing binding, but give me an idea, like 1 to 5 of the remaining pieces. We have already replaced the compressor and evaporator at the Casey Coombs walk-in cooler, which basically makes it, the only thing left is the actual box and the door. So it's basically a brand new walk-in. So there's 5 more of these units, and kind of just go 1 to 5, like the order that we think they might go, and then I can get some ideas of pricing, and then steamers. That's another huge piece of equipment. We've already replaced 2 of them. The only one that's still not new within the last 3 years is here at Quashnet. So that might be on the list, but we get a service twice a year. It keeps going. So you'll have a much better idea. You can look in this and get an idea of just how old a lot of this stuff is. But like September to October, I could have a much better list with some more accurate and maybe better guesstimates of the life left on some of these pieces. We won't replace the Buffalo chopper. I think we spoke about that 2 years ago, and I had to explain what it was. Most of my employees don't even know what it is. We don't use it. So, any questions on equipment?
No, I think it's a
Yeah,
good
so
beginning, and
we'll be-
come back.
We'll be working on it
Yeah.
more than, I know that you've spoken a lot with Mr. Funk and stuff about it.
Okay.
right.
Policy then, I guess is the other item. We'll try to get through
Is that all on me, or?
This is your, yeah,
We're-
I will support
well, you're
you
part
when
of my
you ask a
subcommittee.
question. Yes, we did talk.
All right, we are required by July 1, we're a little behind, but that's all right, to have a lunch debt protocol. Basically, it was never a requirement. Most schools did have some sort of a policy, and every school struggles with the same thing. They're owed money at the end of the year. The old policy was a little strict to the point where we never really even adhered to it because you couldn't. It basically stated when a student owes 2 lunches, we could give them an alternate meal. We did do that at times, but it was after every effort to contact and get something going with a parent was totally exhausted, and by now they owe $40, then they'd get an alternate meal. And it would usually it worked. Kid would be upset, we end up getting money. But and I'm kind of torn. Like, one, I think there needs to be some. You need to step up and take care of your responsibility. On the other hand, the student in line is not the one that's responsible for not having money for the meals. Our policy has always been, if somebody comes through the line, they get a lunch. They don't get the extras. They don't get the ice cream. Even if they have $1 in their hand, if they owe money, they don't get to buy the a la carte things. That sometimes helps us collect money too. They want their ice cream or they want the extra slice of pizza on Papagino Day, and they got the cash in their hand, but they owe $12. They're not getting the extra slice. We'll gladly take the $2.50 and put it on their account, but they're not getting the extra slice. So that part needs to stay, I feel. But we basically just kind of changed this whole protocol to more like what we were doing. My department can't do it alone, and that was the discussion that I had with Superintendent DeBoer, that we can contact the students' parents or guardians, and at some point when they're just ignoring us, then it needs to go to another level. And so it's all spelled out in this.
Can you share, what was the amount owed at the end of this year before we got involved? Like the list you brought down to our office, what was that total? Like 3,000 something?
Yeah, this year was not good. We were owed $3,100 about a month before the end of school, maybe a little less than that. We got it down to $1,746. But to give you an idea, FY16, the bill you pay me for this, so this comes out of the school budget somewhere. I can't carry debt. So the year before, the bill I gave was for $1,300, so it went up $400 this year. But with the help of Gail Hannon, and just coming from the super's office and not my office, we were successful in getting it down from $3,100 to $1,700. But the FY15 figure was $383, and FY14 was $190. And that's what I remember it being when I was here as a lead cook. It just didn't get this crazy. What's happened is we have when parents realize that debt just goes away and their kid's going to be fed, a lot of them just ignore it.
Do you think it's at all related to the online system? Because that's a difference between those years. We went to that online system.
The debt's up? No.
Well, no, where they pay and keep it on their account versus a kid coming in with money every day. I don't know.
We had almost as many kids with money on their account. We just received it by them giving us money or giving us a check.
Okay.
Now we still do that. For what Mr. DeBoer is referring to is the My School Bucks program, which I've been pushing because of not the payment feature. What this allows parents to do is they set up an account. They do not have to pay any money. If they do put money on their credit card, it costs $1.95. That's where Heartland Systems makes their money. Every other feature, which is the ones I want people to use, are free, such as getting an email at a certain number. Parent goes in there and says, I want to know when my account balance drops to $10. I want a reminder email. That's great. Now we don't have to call you. When you get that reminder email and all the money's gone, or it's gone too quickly, and you like, what's going on? You go in there and, oh, Johnny's been buying ice cream every day. They can put a stop to that, or they can call me and I just click a little box and no a la carte sales, or I'll put a note on there. In fact, your son he was buying ice cream regularly, and then he was buying it on, I think it's Tuesdays. There's a note right when Chris Santos' son comes up, snack on Tuesday, you know? Cashier sees that?
Yeah,
Nope,
exactly.
sorry. It works. And those features are free, so that's why I push it with every parent. It's like, you can give me the money any way you want. You can send a check in, whatever. Just open up that account, because you can take charge and be aware, and that will take the burden off of us calling everybody. There's one of the reasons I think the debt gets up there with some people is when you owe $2.50, $4, you're not even on the radar. We're not even calling you yet. There's 50 other phone calls to make, way above that. So a bunch of that can be taken away. It's in every little letter, beginning of the year communication I send out. I go to the open houses at the elementary schools. They get a good turnout, but not enough. Like the message has, there's a lot of people using that, but there's a lot that aren't.
That break in the annual debt also happened when you raised the lunch prices substantially. I mean, it just, people might not have been maybe as aware of the increase or,
Well,
you know. Because I thought you said that the last increase was 16 and 17. And that looked like that's when the big jump happened between 15
Yeah.
and 16.
We
could
were
explain
not
some of that.
able to do, we abandoned the former lunch policy 100% during FY15, or I'm sorry, FY16.
I
And
see.
that's when it jumped up.
Ah, I see.
We had no tools to do anything other than call and be ignored, send emails, send letters, and that's when it jumped up.
So I guess the question for Superintendent DeBoer is, since ultimately it comes back to the school committee and not the enterprise fund for the lunch program to fund this, what options does the school committee have available through its policies, and how effective is that in collecting these amounts?
Well, whatever we do, we don't want it to be punitive to the student. And I know that technically you don't withhold a report card for that, but you can withhold a teacher assignment at the younger grades. High school graduation, if you're a senior and you owe money because of all the things they are going to go through, they tend to pay up. But the problem is the 9th, 10th, and 11th graders. And because we have to close that out, it comes, out of the money we would have turned back to the town. And even if those people eventually pay the town, we can't give it back to you. I just think if, and they do a great job, but more communication with parents when they only owe $2, because that's an easier thing to get than when you're and it keeps building, and trying to be proactive with that. But it could also be, if our numbers of free and reduced are increasing over the years, that's just hard for families to pay that. Although most of those people would be on the reduced. The most of the debt is the people who actually don't qualify for free and reduced. Or
Right.
they didn't
Or
get
they-
their designations. That's the problem too. He encourages everyone to do the paperwork to get that designation. And if they do it within a month of when they start to incur a debt, he can fix that. But once a month closes, and say October or November, the person gets that reduced or free designation, he can't go back to those previous 2 months. So a lot of that's timing too, where people qualify and they don't realize they qualify and they haven't, so he does try to help them get that way.
Some people, I try to call them when they get to that certain point, and I want to talk to them, but they just think I'm, the bill collector. So I'm ignored. It's like, no, can I send you home an application? Do you need help filling out? Whatever. You might qualify. Let's do this. There's a lot that they just don't do it. When they finally do it, it's 4 months later. As Superintendent DeBoer said, once I submit my reimbursement each month, that ship sailed. I can go back to the month that I haven't submitted my reimbursement yet, and it's kind of painstaking. I basically have to go in and void all the transactions and then re-ring them at the new status. But I get my money, and they get rid of the debt, release a portion of it. It surprises me the number of people that don't fill out an application even after I implore them to. Oh, I make too much. Well, just fill it out. Let me look at it. They don't know all, but, you want all the people that live in your household on the application, because the more people, it doesn't have to be family members, it's how many people live in the household. Some people, they miss that little step, and they list the student and the parent. Like, well, I know that student has 2 younger sisters and brothers that aren't even in school yet. They need to be there, because now this gets divided. That's a family of 4, not a family of 2. Stuff like that.
What do the other surrounding schools do
For
in regard to this issue?
exactly what we're doing, pull their hair out. Seriously, every district. There's the reason DESE has finally, said, and they didn't give us really any guidance. They just said everybody has to have a policy or protocol in place on July 1. And I think what they're going to try and do is like go through all of them and maybe come up with something that can be a little more global, because nobody has the answer. You can't punish the student. You can't go on the field trip. You can't do any of that. You don't want to. It's the tech group that I belong to. It's also just a great networking, sharing thing, and the emails from all the different directors. It's all saying the same thing. Like, we're all battling the exact same problem. And some of the bigger districts, they're owed like $20,000.
So once you close out a month, then that balance you can never basically collect other than from the school committee, correct?
Not each month. I mean, that student owes that money. I can't go back in and
Right.
re-ring
You
it
can't-
up.
you
It's
can't re-ring
because
it
I've
up.
already sent the paperwork up
If
to
the
DESE.
designation were to change.
Right, but if the designation is to change, you can't go back.
no.
and-
I can only go
and
back up
readjust.
until, and I don't submit, you're halfway into the next month before I'm doing the reimbursement, so there's a good window, and I can go back. I mean, sometimes, if it's been a real crazy month, I might be able to go back a month and a half. Like I said, it's painstaking, but it's worth it in the end, because it just makes it easier for me.
And how readily available is the information in regard to what is owed at the end of every month?
Well, if you sign up for my school bucks, that information is available from your little smartphone anytime you want to look at it.
Right, but
That's-
for those.
Or you make a phone call to the office and we'll tell you. Or you ask the cashier and they'll tell you what you owe. I mean, a lot of kids do that. They know that they're getting down. The older kids, we tell them. Or even here at Quashnet, some of the older ones that we know there's a check coming every week. It's the 28th of the month. They're in arrears, or they got $1 left. We just tell them, hey, you're getting low. Tell mom and dad, send in some more money. And we don't worry about it. That's just kind of like a cycle. So any number of ways. I can send out emails to everyone in the entire district that owes money, but it'll be a generic email. It won't have the name and the actual number. It'll just say that, you owe money. And then they'll call. Or they'll come in and ask their cashier, like, my mom wants to know what we owe or whatever. It just gets it going. And that works really well. But what we get is the 150, 250, 350. The other ones, they're already ignoring us. So that doesn't work. That's the phone call, and then letters, phone calls from me, and then in this, in here, what did we say? After 4 lunches, we're saying at that point, I'm going to start being proactive myself on it and not my administrative assistant, and really try to get them to speak with them. And if I have no success, then it goes on to the superintendent's office, and they can send either a letter, or they'll probably start with a phone call as well, but it just carries a little different weight. So
So when they break the metric, however the journalized free, we don't have to worry about, but reduced lunch and regular lunch students, and they break the, I think it was 2.
4
Carry 2, or is it 4?
4 lunches,
When you
yeah.
start serving the alternative meal?
No, we took that right out of the policy. It had its merits, kind of, but that didn't work.
But it says when the student reaches a maximum meal charge of 3 charged meals, they will be only offered a
I
designated
think
meal
you're
alternative.
looking at, I think you have a copy of the what is it? Basically, the one that's in place now. We're just not using it. And then there's the new one.
Right on top of it too.
Yeah, no, there's in the new one.
My
There's
apologies, yeah.
no alternate
Good,
alternate
'cause I had a
meals.
question. Now I do not. I no longer have.
We're gonna hit the a la carte stuff really hard.
Got
You're
it.
not, if you owe a nickel, you're not getting the chips at the high school.
Yeah, understood.
And that has to do with my employees up there. They would, if there's a regular kid that we know they're gonna end up paying, no, don't let them get the extra today. They'll pay tomorrow.
Okay, very quickly then. So getting back to the paperwork and trying to get people to fill that out for those who qualify. So obviously you can't hold everybody's hand, you can't make people do things, but trying to improve upon that, because obviously that's an issue. That's whether it's pride, whether it's complacency, whatever, why people are not doing it. I would assume you have a list of the people that are either far in debt or you have a feeling they qualify for that stuff. Is it possible that we could have, reach out over the summer or before the school year starts, kind of invite them, to, maybe have a sit down or, what I mean,
Yeah.
in a more comfortable environment where they don't feel as like the pride might be a little.
First part of the process, well, first, let me back up. Your status from FY17 carries through the month of September
Yes.
every year. So you have a free month, and that's strictly so we can take care of all this stuff, because they're not going to do it in the summertime. First thing I do is the direct certification process, which also changed this year. Direct certification is when you're up in the system, you're receiving SNAP benefits, housing benefits, portions of Medicaid, whatever. You come back, I send up data for every student in the district, and I get a list back who's directly certified. I need nothing from them. They get a letter from me telling them they're free. That's the vast majority of our free kids. This has changed this year because they're now doing direct certification reduced. To be reduced, that was strictly a handwritten application, income-based. So that, I think, is going to be huge. That's going to grab a whole bunch of people that might be getting some Medicaid or mass health benefits that aren't free, but they're going to be reduced. So I'm going to get a whole bunch of those. Then during the month of September, so now I've sent out applications to everybody, and then throughout the month of September, twice a week, I'm going on the list. I can print out who is about to expire on 9/30, and I'll start with an email or a letter home, with an application, a hard copy in the envelope, that your status is going to change. You're going to go to paid on October, whatever, after that weekend. Please fill this out. And right up until, that last week, I'm calling constantly trying to get it to not run out. Give me another one. A lot of people just let it go, and then they go through the month of October, and now they owe money, and then they give me an application. So we work very hard
You can only do
that
so much.
month because it just makes life easier for me and my department. The application's available online, at our website. It's available at every main office. They have copies. It's everywhere.
Are we voting on this? Where does this reside at, by the way?
This is his operation.
It's his protocol, right?
His
So it's like
protocol.
internal
It's still up. I don't think I ever took it down. It's on our food service website, the
protocol. Got it.
policy that's in place now, but, like I said, we're not using it.
Yeah, it's his policy versus our policy, but, when you look at last year's outstanding balance, is the bulk of it made up of $2 here and $3 there? Or is there the bulk of it more egregious?
Bulk of it is big. We have a couple real big ones that go a large chunk of the year.
Okay.
And that was kind of a side discussion that we had in our subcommittee meeting. Like they're almost a different class. Like
So-
obviously what we're doing isn't working.
Right, so for those who have been and may based on past practice.
Right, we
be
kind of know them.
Be egregious. Is your protocol to try to be preemptive via the superintendent's office? Since
No,
it
well,
appears that it didn't work in the past.
when I see
years.
one of those people and they only owe $10, it's not 4 lunches yet, we'll be on them a little quicker. And it will probably go to superintendent's office a little quicker.
Okay.
Yeah, I think sometimes at the high school level, you're dealing with, the dynamic is different. I prefer the elementary level to sort of not go through the child. But high school, you can have a conversation with those kids because they understand.
The high school, so many of those kids will get an additional item. They'll get the lunch and they'll get another burger or, an extra slice of pizza or whatever. And once you start not letting them do that, they have the money in their pocket. They just don't want to give it to you. They will. They do. They try to charm you first.
I mean, I guess personally, what you're proposing based on the tools available is probably makes sense. I think given that the balance is steadily increased, I think the committee needs to be a little more proactively aware of what is transpiring. And specifically, I would ask if it's possible that you could update the committee in January, because that'll be
I
roughly
can
half
do it quite
year.
regularly. Yep.
in
It
regard
can be
to-
part of my
It's monthly. He
my
can have
monthly
that
financial
outstanding.
statement even.
Oh, yeah.
Easily.
Well,
Def-
Yeah.
If it's readily available, I don't want to make a lot.
Oh, yeah, no.
No, I
extra
can
work.
It's
click,
running.
and I can give you a total at each school
Yeah.
very quickly.
Okay, if you could
Um,
add that, so that'll at least give us an idea.
Yeah, and I can even tell you, okay, this is kind of where it is usually, so don't be alarmed at this.
Yeah.
When
Well,
it gets here,
I
it's
mean, if
another
you
issue.
just- Last year was a high watermark year, right? So
Right.
relatively speaking, if you're comparing FY 18 to FY 17, if 18 is higher than
Yes.
17, then
Our
we might-
my discussion with Superintendent DeBoer was, it's my department where this is all coming from. I can't do this alone. I need support at the school administration level as well as up there, and so I think we have a much better plan now than we had. It was easy to write on the piece of paper that, oh, you're going to give them an alternate lunch after 2 lunches, and at the high school there's no charging. Well, that doesn't work. Kid doesn't have money, doesn't have lunch, he's going to get a lunch. He's going to charge. So it wasn't really usable.
And the reason we didn't want building administration as much involved, because they have so much that they're doing, I would prefer that it ends up probably with Gail as being, the principals are rather busy with a lot, so
Yep.
that's why.
Fans aren't working, just so you know.
Well, you need one aimed at you.
Can I ask one follow-up? So you mentioned that there are maybe a few more egregious violators. So I think Dawn started to get on this in terms of being preemptive, but is this something we can tackle before the school year begins? Are these people that would qualify for free and reduced lunches and haven't applied? Or
Well, the one at the high school,
They
that-
might. There's
he
a
might,
lot of
but
people in home.
I will, if I could sit down with someone, I will fill the thing out. They just have to sign it. You give me the info. Like, that's how much I can do, but I can't just do an application. And yeah, I think we're not really sure what his situation is, this one. But yeah, he probably does.
But also in the situation he's talking about, the high school student has quite a high tab, but the siblings at the elementary level don't. So, yeah.
Yeah, then there's
So,
there's another one, I can't give you names, but there's another one that coming over to Quash this year that was pretty high. Yeah, he probably will. They just have to fill it out.
Well, I'd be interested in helping do any kind of outreach to particular families that if you think that would be helpful. Sometimes it's helpful to just have a different person engage, or a different
Right.
ambassador reach out. But I think that the message we have to send as a school committee is that, you know, the other students of the school are effectively subsidizing those. We're giving up something for our students in shape of books or equipment or infrastructure
Right.
in order to cover those costs. And so it's really being borne by all the students. And
Correct.
that's just not fair to the rest of the family.
No,
So I
it's
think
not.
we have to do, I would be happy to help try to reach out a little bit more specifically if that's warranted, if we're capable of doing that. But I also think that Don's right. Let's hope that this is kind of the high water and we can kind of bring it down.
Yep.
So,
There's certain students that come along, I hear that there's some issues or whatever, and I'll go talk to guidance, and because they tend to know, you know, what's going on and whatever, and then they make calls and try to get them to fill it out or whatever, and they're successful a lot of the times.
Yeah, I do think the guidance avenue, the counseling avenue, is a good way, because they do have relationships with the families, and they have that whole sort of feeling of confidentiality, knowing other stuff that's going on with them. So that's another strategy. I know we've done it in the past, but not maybe as proactively as we could with using counselors. It's a good idea.
All right, so it sounds like your proposal is put more focus on it going forward and try to be more proactive, and see if maybe that can be a better way to manage this issue going forward. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, the alternate meals and stuff didn't seem to affect it, so we don't want them anyway. So we're just going to try to get on it quicker, and yeah, keep everybody informed. You'll be informed. I'll be communicating with the superintendent's office, the ones that they need to help me out with, and hopefully it just won't get as bad.
When do you expect that DESE is going to put out some sort of guidance?
I'm thinking this is just because they don't really have any guidance. They just tell us what we can't do.
Right.
And schools didn't have to have a policy concerning this, but now they do. I think they're gonna, when I have my review this year, this is gonna be one of the things they look at. And I don't think they're necessarily gonna grade it like, oh, this is good, this is bad. They want us to have something. They're probably gonna, I have to upload this when we do have it done, and they're gonna probably just review them all and try to come up with, you know, somebody's got some idea somewhere that, you know, piece of this, piece of this, piece of this, and maybe, and then be able to say, to get some more guidance from them
All right.
on how to deal with it, how somebody else is dealing with it.
Well, I think if we have you track and report the balances, you take the proactive steps with the superintendent's office that you've outlined in the protocol, and then, you know, as a committee, we'll keep an eye on this, and particularly look to see if DESE comes out with some sort of best practice guidance, etc. You know, then we can adjust as we need to.
Yep.
Going forward. So, any other questions, comments? So we need to vote on this, I believe. Right?
Right. Well, yes, or approve.
I don't get that. But I was, again, we'll defer to the Democratic while we're voting on an internal protocol.
Well, you don't have to. We renamed it protocol
I saw
because
that.
it
I
feels
appreciate that,
like
yeah.
it feels like this is just how we operate,
Yeah.
or how we address this issue.
Well, it's operational procedures.
Right.
And more policy.
Right.
your
So I say
procedures.
no.
Right.
we changed
So
So I don't think you're right.
Do we-
Even though it says here we need to vote.
currently, you have a policy,
Put it in their
though,
case.
on the books that your group voted on in
our
2012.
policy manual.
Right. So does that need to be voted on to rescind that? Because technically, it's out there, right?
Yeah, that's a good
We have
point.
to look at it.
Is it this
Policy
one?
subcommittee.
The original
Oh, this
policy was a policy that the school committee
Yeah, but
voted
this
on.
is not. this is not in our policy manual
All right, but
because it's not numbered correctly. It wouldn't, I don't
I-
think it's in there.
before my time, I don't know.
We'll check though, but I'm pretty sure.
It was voted on, I know. I know it was.
So maybe even then, I'm not sure that was,
We'll take a look.
yeah,
Right.
we'll look.
All right, so why don't we do this? Let's refer this protocol to the policy subcommittee to see whether or not they need to take action.
All right.
Are you serious? You are.
I am serious.
All right, form of a subcommittee.
I don't know that you necessarily have to have a meeting, you just need to look and see if this is conflicting with the current policy.
I could look for you and report out if it's conflicting with anything we have.
And then you would need to.
Roll over it.
Well, then you would need to get together,
You get it, Chris.
Roll over.
Yeah, I get
okay?
it. This doesn't need to be
So
difficult.
close. And yet so far.
What's that?
Nothing.
You bet, you shake, because I can't hear you.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think she wanted you to hear that.
I can't hear you either, Dawn.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else for Gus?
Thanks,
Since we're
Gus,
No,
you're
I'm-
awesome.
chopping
Great.
I
block?
have to look.
I don't know if you all know what's going on next week over at the high school.
Yeah.
Superintendent's
Superintendent's
Oh, the
conference.
Oh, it's-
Yeah, so Wednesday to Friday, you want to
lunchtime.
walk in around lunchtime. I think actually Wednesday, Thursday, you'll probably be very impressed. And I'm not just my department, but it's a heck of an event that we host every year. But I got connections and I can feed you pretty good. It's not nuggets. It'll be good.
It's good stuff.
Thanks, Gus.
Or
no.
pizza.
So
no.
stop by around lunchtime, Wednesday through Friday
me-
next week?
Wipe
Okay.
this off for the next guy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gus.
Thank you, guys.
All right, Mark's up next.
All right.
All right. Next item of business is handbook revisions. We're going to start with the high school, well, middle high school.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I can attest to Mr. Stickley's emails for payment of lunches. I had a bill at the end of the year. I definitely got it, so but it was paid in full. So, but it does work. So you'll have in your packet an overall crib sheet for some of the changes that we made. I'll preface this by saying at the very top for clerical and grammatical changes, I don't know that you necessarily want to hear every single one of those, but they were basically made just to update for term dates, report card dates, things of that nature for the upcoming 17-18 school year. We also just did change a name of one of our teams from a student support team to what's called a Pulse team, and that's just an opportunity for us to get updates on learners in the school environment on a weekly basis. If you look down to the bottom half of the sheet is where you'll see our language changes. Nothing earth-shattering, nothing overly major, but I do want to go through and highlight a couple of those for you. If you look down to the alternative education program, we do have an alternative ed program at the high school level for students in grades 11 and 12, and we just reflected some language there in order to make it more in line with MTSS and the tiered systems of supports that we have for all students, just to make it more user-friendly and also to add some more guidelines to it to make it a little bit more proactive and have a little bit more teeth to make sure our students are getting the most out of the programming. If you look down to page 20 and 21, this is where we did the bulk of our work this year. And that is in regard to tardiness. We've worked for the last couple of years on attendance. You guys get attendance reports every meeting that you have for our daily attendance at the middle high school. For the most part, we're well above the Cape average, Cape and Islands average. We average anywhere between 93 and 94% on average per month, which is something we're going to continue to work on. We also have at the high school level, the kids take 7 different courses, and their attendance in those individual courses does affect and impact credit. So the attendance is a little bit different at the high school level than it is, say, at the middle school level, where we don't distribute credit for courses. So the big change on that really is the tardiness to school policy. We struck the first sentence, meaning that when students enter the building, the bell rings at 7:25, then 7:30 is when students are to be in their first period class, excuse me. And if it's 7:32 and they go in, teachers are now going to accept them into the classroom, not send them down to the office to get a pass that, or send them out for a pass that they don't have. It's going to be accept them into the classroom, have the least impact, negative impact on learning, and allow students to enter into the school. The other big part of that at the bottom of page 20 is our discipline for tardiness. We talked about this, and Chairman mentioned in our last meeting in June about suspension rates at the high school level, meaning grades 10, 11, and 12. We don't have a lot of high suspension rate at the 7th, 8th, and 9th grade level, and we're really working this year to be much more proactive with our discipline. Suspending kids outside of school maybe 40 years ago was effective. It is highly ineffective at this point in time. So we really want to have more restorative justice. And I heard a great quote from my principals network, and it was about we teach math, English, science, and social studies, but we don't teach behavior. And although we expect it to be taught in all places, our job is to reinforce and model the behaviors that we want to see. So rather than giving overextended discipline for tardiness, we wanted to have learning opportunities and have more of a restorative justice type program for the discipline in that area. So that was kind of the big one. And we also clarified the consequences. If this happens and this is what we do, and we left a little bit more discretion to the dean of students, who both are the disciplinarians for the middle high school level.
If I may ask a question more on
You
that.
may.
Yeah.
So are we completely doing away with Saturday school, or are you just making it no longer a mandatory
We're-
reprimand?
We're not doing away with it. It does have some positives to it. However, for students that are not attending school, or students that are chronically late, and again, we don't have 40, 50 kids in a Saturday school. We might have 6 or 7
Yep.
in a given month. So we only run them once a month. And for kids that aren't attending, they're not probably going to attend a Saturday school. And then the consequence for a skip Saturday school was a 1-day out-of-school suspension. So it was just kind of layering it on, and it was not effective. So we will keep Saturday schools as an option for discipline, but again, not for that type of discipline.
So you're just removing the language, making it mandatory if
Correct.
these events happen.
So we want to have more discretion at the dean to do more proactive discipline and turn into more of a learning experience as opposed to a punitive one. Because oftentimes the punishments don't reinforce the behavior we want. They just kind of continue with the same trends.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you for that question. A couple of other ones of note. For field trip eligibility, and that is on page 24 of the handbook, we just want students to make sure that they're in good academic standing in all of their classes. Oftentimes, if a student is performing poorly in 2 or 3 classes, for them to miss an entire day of school on a field trip, that's not necessarily the best fit for them. So we want them to be in good standing. But we also added at the very bottom there, exceptions may be granted upon administrative approval. As a principal of a school and my leadership team, we believe that learning can take place on field trips, and not all learning takes place in the classroom. So we want students to have that access, but with the understanding that the expectation is you are performing satisfactorily in all of your areas so you're eligible to go. And this doesn't happen overly often, but in some cases, you may have a student who's missed a significant amount of school and maybe way behind in classes. We want them to be, in a good place in order for them to attend. And then just a couple of other ones. Bicycles, rollerblades, and skateboards. They had separate sections. They're all in one section now. So that's just condensing as opposed to keeping them separate. And then at the very bottom of the crib sheet you have is extracurricular programs. We were very, very fortunate this year under the leadership of Mike Looney, and that's on page 53, to add to our extracurriculars a National Technical Honor Society. We had our first induction ceremony this spring. It was outstanding, and it's an opportunity to recognize students that are excelling in the technology courses, in the career and technical education pathways that we have, and recognize their achievements there. So within that is a description of that and what the general requirements are in order to be eligible for invitation and then possible selection.
I guess one of the changes that we made is on page 26 in regard to captains and class and club officers.
Yes, we did
Can
make a
you just
change.
Give me a little bit of the rationale for that.
Well, we feel that, teenagers, unfortunately, don't always make the best decisions. And while we're charged with enforcing consequences for those, we felt that a 365-day termination was a bit over the top. So we would say that at that given time, if a student is found to violate a school policy and they are a school class captain or class officer or athletic captain or whatever else, that we would suspend that for the remainder of the current school year, giving them an opportunity to learn from the mistake and hopefully make better decisions in the future. Now, I can be honest, there probably wouldn't be a captain again. That's based on teams or clubs, but we felt that a 365 day suspension on that privilege was a bit much.
Yeah, we are keeping that consequence in regard to substance abuse.
Absolutely. So that, for the most part, is the gist of the changes that we have this year. I'll be happy to answer any questions further should you have them. But really, the goal was to take a look at this and see what we're doing that's working well, clarify information for parents and for students and for staff as they're enforcing these policies. The other big one that I think is on yours, and I just wanted to mention, is in regard to cell phone use, and you'll see this in all the handbooks. I don't know if cell phones are as big an issue at the Casey Coombs as they are at the Quash and middle high school. But students are going to be required moving forward to, when they enter a classroom, that the cell phone is expected to be off and put in a storage, what do we call those, Superintendent DeBoer?
It's like a clear pouch that will hang. They'll be numbered, so when you walk into any classroom, the cell phone goes there, and when you exit the classroom, you take your cell phone with you.
And that's been an effective use, especially at the middle high school. Surprisingly, students are, as long as they know where it is and they can see it, it's off and it's in an appropriate place. We did have a little bit less of a cell phone issue discipline-wise last year. We do allow students to have them in the cafeteria at lunch, and I think that was a fair, you're not going to get rid of cell phones forever in schools. It's very difficult to do. So to meet them and allow them to have that opportunity to have a cell phone during lunch, but when they're in an academic setting, it's expected to be off and away. And we also have in our language, if a teacher has a certain application they want to use with a cell phone that is for educational purposes, they have the discretion to do that. So we don't want to say teachers can't allow them to be used, because there are some apps that work on a phone that don't necessarily work on a Chromebook or an extension. So we will allow the discretion of the teacher at that point.
And that same change, like Principal Balestratchi said, isn't going to be in place at Quashnet this year. There's not a cell phone issue at the Coombs School, but
Sure.
we need them to detach a little bit and focus on learning.
Which policy is going to be the same at Quashnet?
The cell phone,
You mean with the pouches?
yeah.
That many kids have cell phones at Quashnet?
Well, it's probably not as, yes,
I
you
would
can
say they
speak
do,
to
but
that,
yeah.
Mrs. O'Brien. Fifth and sixth grade. They're
Well, I've
very,
been told that everyone has one
well,
by my soon-to-be fifth grader.
Keep holding out. Keep holding out.
For some reason. Yeah, exactly.
Keep
they can
holding
be
out.
very
Except
stealthful
you,
with their
yeah.
multitasking.
So where is that? What page is that cell phone stuff on? I couldn't find it.
Then our code of conduct.
Yes.
Oh,
So it's on page 33 of the book that you have.
great. Thank you.
Yep. And again, there is an appropriate time for people to use cell phones and for teenagers to use them. So we want to have this in place, but we want the teacher discretion so that we can teach students how to use them appropriately, how to use them safely as research tools and as communication tools. Again, I'm happy to answer any other questions you may have at this time.
Just out of curiosity, on page 33,
Mm-hmm.
in regard to the prohibition against eating/drinking outside the cafeteria except for unflavored water following first period, that makes sense. And then specifically, we say no food or drink except water permitted in science labs and during physical education class.
So I can
Isn't
speak to
that-
that. So
Pardon?
I can definitely speak to that
Okay.
question. So in science, due to the fact that chemicals are used in substances that may be harmful potentially to students if they get in food or drink, and because the labs are inclusive in the classrooms, the National Science Association recommends that you do not allow food to be eaten in those classrooms. in physical education, you know, if you spill something in the gym or whatever else, you know, kids eat 3 donuts and then run around in phys ed first period, that's probably not the best bet. But other than that, we do allow food to be eaten in the first period class only.
Okay, so if they had a science lab or physical education,
Yep.
first period.
Correct, and it rotates through. So we've had, honestly, I've not heard of any issues with students with that one. They're very respectful for it. They appreciate the fact that we trust them enough to, you know, eat some cereal in the morning as they're learning.
And most of the students have time to eat in the morning when they all arrive and they're in the cafeteria area. Mostly it feels like it's a drink that they're taking, and there are a lot of, you know, Dunkin' Donut things that come in, so they finish that up in that first period class.
Yeah, if they only save the money they spend at Dunkin' Donuts, they'd
That's right. We
have
need
nice
to
accounts
put
by
a
the time they're 20 years
Dunkin'
old.
in
Or
the high
Starbucks.
school.
Yeah.
We would make good money.
I can't really be critical with that.
No, I can't say, I refuse to judge people who drink coffee.
Sounds like a good opportunity for the Mashpee Cafe.
For the Mashpee what Cafe, yeah.
Yeah.
Could be,
Well,
could
they
be moving
do that on
forward.
Fridays, but yeah,
For staff, yeah.
staff.
Right, but for
Wow.
everybody. if
And we digress.
Yes, down the road, down the road.
Any other questions for Mr. Balistracci?
Don't forget to change the lunch price on page 52.
Absolutely, yeah, I'll
Yeah.
make sure that. I didn't want to do that preemptively, so.
He'll have to probably change the wellness policy too that's in here.
Yeah, so anything reflected this evening will be updated
Great.
in the handbook prior to its posting, and you'll receive a finalized copy as we may do some final formatting before we post it. But you'll get a revised copy in the new format as you need it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Yep, go ahead.
So, Superintendent DeBoer, the committee needs to approve the handbook, but if the handbook's, is this a first read of the handbook?
So did we put a star next to that?
Mhm.
Yeah, so, you know, first and second reads is glitchy at this time of the year because you
Right,
don't have
but it's
another
still
meeting
too-
for a month.
Right.
And that is too tight for, it's tight.
I think I would request a motion to vote on the proposed changes that I proposed,
the
and then at the
changes.
district level, we'll make any changes as you need to.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I can make a motion and we can fix all this if you like. So I move to suspend the first read policy for the Mashpee Middle High School Parent-Student Handbook approval.
Second.
Any further discussion on that? Nicole, how do you vote?
Yes.
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 And yes. All right. So,
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the Mashpee Middle High School Parent-Student Handbook 2017-2018 as presented.
I second.
that's with the understanding that there may be some non-substantive changes.
I would like me to amend.
That would be brought back to the committee for subsequent
Correct.
notification, I guess.
Correct. And this is a living document. There is administrative ability to make changes and
Staffing.
adaptations as we see fit
Mhm.
throughout the school year as well. So this is just to start the school year. But again, any substantive changes we would present to the committee.
All right. We will finance your motion. Okay. So,
As presented.
yeah, as presented. Who made the second? Second? Nicole did?
Nicole, I believe.
We have an abundance of
Okay.
seconds.
Any further discussion? Nicole, then, how do you vote?
Yes.
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 Yes. We're getting quite good at this, Jim.
All right, let's do it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of
4
the committee.
years. I know I've been known to extend the length of a meeting occasionally due to talking. So I'm just trying to find ways to make it more efficient. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Gail told me not to
In your
copy them.
absence.
No color. Okay. Hold on.
All right.
Not
Oh,
to,
yeah.
So, we have in your
because they were
packet
Yeah.
going to be in the packet.
Okay.
a copy of the Quashnet handbook.
Ready to go.
You good.
Well, good evening. Welcome to another refreshing night at
Hey,
Quashnet
yeah.
School. So there are just a couple adjustments really to the handbook. The first piece is our mission statement at Quashnet School. The Department of Elementary and Secondary Education included in their standards a civic responsibilities clause along with our college and career readiness, and so as a school council we felt it was necessary to include also college and career readiness, but also to engage as an active citizen. So it's really to follow along with the mission of DESE. On page 6, of course, the roster will be updated as soon as the positions are all filled. We do have a couple openings at this point. On page 7, one of the changes we did make, and as you know, we have our recognition awards every year at the end of the year, and one of those awards is for perfect attendance. In the handbook previously, to receive that recognition, a student would have no absences, no tardies, but could be dismissed after 11:30. And we felt that if it's perfect attendance, then they need to be here all day. So the change is no absences, no tardies, and no dismissals. Also on attendance, we wanted to look at that most current research that talked about that October 1st date. And really the September attendance is a precursor for what happens the rest of the year. And students who have poor attendance in September, it becomes a pattern. So we wanted to act quickly to try to work on getting our students here in a faster and more appropriate way. So on October 1st, letters would go home to parents and families if there was a combined total of 3 absences or tardies for that month. And then every month thereafter, we would review during our Pulse meetings, which is a monthly meeting, any students that have a total of 5 or more, and we would reach out to those families to try to improve that attendance. Because of course, if students aren't here, they're not getting the education, and we need them here at school. So it's another way to reach out to families in a more timely manner. Prior to that, it was within 45 days, which would bring us up to the beginning of November before any contact was officially made. So we thought that made a lot of sense, and it also reflects the research out there on attendance.
Just a question on page 8, and I think this is really more for Superintendent DeBoer. In regard to notifying parents when we are canceling or delaying school,
Mm-hmm.
my belief is that the reverse call
We send out a school messenger.
that you're using is really the primary notification,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't talk about that. We talk about TV and radio, which is really about the last thing people are going to want to know, because they're waiting for that 5:30 phone call on multiple phones to happen.
Yeah.
To alert them that there's no school that day.
We can add wording in all 3 books that
So I
brings
was
that
just
to
thinking
attention,
about
yes.
that.
So-
Yeah.
That really, I think, is how we intend to notify them.
Yeah.
And I think that probably we do refer to our computerized system of notification on page 8, but probably on page 1 for delayed opening and cancellation. Would we add it there or on 8?
Mm.
I mean,
One of the things
The computerized system, just back to your point,
Yep.
on page 8, though, is really referencing if they're already at the school and we're sending them home early.
Right.
Versus,
Okay.
we don't want them to come because we're canceling the school, or we're delaying the school, so.
Mm-hmm.
I'll leave it to you guys
Well, we'll put something in.
Yep.
to take a look at that, but I didn't.
It's also another way to stress the importance of filling out the data collection information that first month of school to make sure we have all the correct numbers. On page 9, along with the Coombs School, we felt this was necessary for residency, that when there is a change of telephone number or residency, that the school emergency contact information would need to be updated and ensure its accuracy, as well as documentation to verify that that actually is a new residence. So that's in conjunction with the Coombs School. And that was an issue last year at Coombs. There was a child that did move, and the information wasn't updated, and there was no requirement that stated that, so it became a little problematic. On page 10, this is regards to field trips and the information about that data collection system. I would like to include, and this is also in the Coombs School handbook as well, that students would not be able to attend field trips unless that InfoSnap data system has been updated at the start or during that academic year. The reason being is this is very important for the safety of our students. That information includes allergies, it includes any new diagnoses or medication. If that child leaves, they have a bee allergy, they need an EpiPen, it's not on any of their information, we don't know that. We're putting, it just isn't a safe practice. We need to have that emergency number on hand that's accurate. It's the one bit of leverage that we do have. Last year it was very, very difficult to get all of these numbers updated, and we did not succeed in that. So we really felt that was an important addition to the handbook, just to stress the importance of having that emergency contact information.
Is the InfoSnap data system, are the parents responsible for updating that, or?
It's the parents' responsibility right at the beginning of the year. Information and your logins are going to be sent out in August. We'll have someone here for open house to assist with that. And as we did at conferences last year, we had help here and Chromebooks set up, but we need that information before our November conferences. And at Quashnet, we have a lot of field trips that go out in October. We need this information. It's really critical.
Is it safe to assume that we are now at the point where we believe everybody has access to a computer to be able to complete that?
If they do not have access, they can certainly call us and we will make sure that information's there. Okay. But it is really critical that we have it. On page 11 is a change in the emergency response prior to the emergency response of Alice. This was our code red, which we are really implementing the Alice protocol for emergency now. So it just lists what Alice stands for: to alert, lock down, inform, counter, and evacuate. This isn't to be done in any sequential order, but it's important that that information is there. On page 12, a couple simple things. The lost and found said to go to the main office. It's in the lunchroom. Go there. We have plenty of lost and found if anyone's looking for some spare clothing. Passes for students. We don't issue passes necessarily for students, and it was something we had done in the past at Quashnet School, but there's a sign-out book in each classroom, and that is how a student obtains permission to go where they need to go. So that is where the permission comes from. And the one place that we do need a pass is from the lunchroom, so that the student will come with a pass from the teacher that they have permission to join a lunch bunch with that teacher in the classroom. Because there's no way to verify or know. Students like to say, oh, I'm having lunch with Mr. whoever. I don't want to send them out of the lunchroom to go down to the Liberty Wing, for example, for 5th grade, not knowing that that teacher is truly expecting them. So that's really the only update with passes. In terms of toys, I did include fidget spinners because they did become a huge distraction for us. And not just playing with them in the class, but many of them went missing, which required multiple hours of investigative work, and we're trying to avoid that. If a student needs them, if there's a benefit, the teacher or a special education teacher feels that that's necessary, or an OT, absolutely. But it is being considered a toy. Any toys coming from home, we want to include recess. We don't need them. We have unbelievable supplies. We're very fortunate with all of the new toys that we have for recess from our great PTO. So there's plenty of supplies here. Home toys, it creates a problem. So that's the reason for that change. As Principal Bellistracci talked about, the telephone use, we will have those pockets here at Quashnet. 5th grade and 6th grade are our primary issues with cell phones. Our 6th grade team collected them last year and put them in baskets, and that was good, but this is a better practice because we can see them, each student's responsible for them. When they leave the classroom, they'll be able to bring them with them. But as I said earlier, we have had 3rd grade and 4th grade issues with cell phones. It's just a better practice to keep them in one location. If they're left in a locker, sometimes it's too easy to see what I have, and we want to avoid that. So
I think that's going to be a huge addition to the changing of classroom time for the 5th graders, especially on the 3 teacher teams.
I don't think so, because it's where they put them strategically. They're going to need to plan that location. If they put them in the opposite end of the room, yes,
Yeah,
it's
right.
going to be a problem. But as everything we do, it really has to be planned out. The whole classroom has to be strategically done. In terms of the student code of conduct, we have a misbehavior level 1, level 2, and level 3. Originally in our handbook, bullying and teasing were listed together under a level 2. This was the same language we actually had in our bus slips a couple years ago, and we separated them for bus slips. They're two different things. Bullying is very specific. Teasing, kids tease. They make mistakes. They're redirected. So we wanted teasing as a level 1. It's important to recognize, however, that any repeated instance of a level 1 can move to a level 2 misbehavior. So we're not saying, okay, you can tease and let this go on, but that's part of the learning process. These misbehaviors are what our kids are learning and how to be good citizens and good people, and they make mistakes, and we have to teach them the right way. So it just seemed those two really needed to be teased out. No pun intended. Let's see here. On page 15, there was just a simple addition of another page number to reference on civil rights in terms of discrimination. So it's just another reference. And on page 19, we added a time for buses and any change in dismissals. We need to know that in the office no later than 1:45 p.m. and we have referenced that to make sure that is just happening. At the end of the day, we have students going to special at 2 o'clock. Some are in special at 1 to 1:45, and it's just, we need to get that information early to ensure accuracy. On page 20, we have more on our transportation. The previous handbook spelled out specifically that if a student had their first misconduct on the bus, they would be assigned to the front seat of the bus for 1 week or 5 days. I really think that all of our disciplines should be progressive in nature. It's up to, but not exceeding. So there are times, honestly, I want a handbook to be reflective of our real practice, and we are not putting students in the front seat for 5 days. Sometimes there's a misbehavior 2 days before a vacation. Well, you're going to sit in the front seat for 2 days before vacation. Sometimes there's a situation on the bus where we can't even use that front seat. So I think it's just more reasonable to say up to but not exceeding on each of those progressive disciplines. It gives us the flexibility as professionals to deal with the misbehaviors and work with our parents too. But really the handbook should be reflective more of the practice. On page 21,
Ms.
more in-
O'Brien, can I ask one question?
Yep.
Only because I just went over bus policy with Paul
Oh, yes.
last week, but I don't think, can we suspend a student from riding the bus if they're if they are outside of the 2-mile requirement? Aren't we required by law to provide busing to a student within a certain radius of the school?
I believe we can suspend them. Right? I believe so. I can. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I just was curious. It sounded like we were legally required to do that. Okay.
Mm-mm.
We've always sort of looked at, and I've had conversations with children, it's a privilege to ride the bus, it's not a right. But
According to Paul, it actually is their right.
we try to accommodate the situation, and are aware of what's happening with the family, whatever the misbehavior was on the bus, the other students involved. You try to reach a happy place with that.
I mean,
What?
it makes sense. I just,
Well, yeah,
okay, I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure because
I'll
I
follow
thought
up with him.
Mr. Funk said that we were legally required to provide busing to anyone outside of 2 miles from the school. And so
Mm-hmm.
I just wonder if legally we are allowed to kick somebody off a bus for behavior if they're
I'll follow
outside
up
of
on that.
radius.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's also a presumption of following the rules on the bus as well.
Yeah.
That might be one of those things, just like, obviously, we are legally bound to provide education, but we can suspend them from school for
Yeah,
behavior. So
okay.
there might be a term. We wanna
Okay.
Make sure we're at least in
Yeah.
that term.
Yeah.
And we have provided specialized transportation for students who have misbehaved on the bus. Often that's when it is associated possibly with a diagnosis or a disability.
Okay.
We have provided that specialized transportation.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
So just one last question on that page then. So does the school administrator still have ultimate decision-making in regard to misconduct 1 through 4? Is that, so it's their determination that,
We do believe in a partnership, however, with families and
Right.
want to come to a conclusion together. But yes, we would give a recommendation based on the number of missteps or misbehaviors.
I guess, in other words, bottom line is, you're trying to give the child affected every opportunity to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And this
Right.
isn't, that's mistake number 2.
You're out. No,
You're out.
no.
Okay.
No, we use
That's
multiple
what
methods, and often, besides specialized transportation in extreme situations, we have also adjusted our bus monitors to either ride in the morning or the afternoon, or we move them from a bus to bus. We really try to meet the needs of the student, and we want them on the bus. Again, it's an opportunity for them to learn, and that's what every single misstep is, and that's our philosophy. So. And we do absolutely look at our tapes. The buses are monitored, our small buses, our large buses are monitored. So we do look at those tapes when there is something in question. Sometimes it helps us more than others, but the tapes are certainly reviewed. On page 21, there is reference to InfoSnap again. It is critical we have that information updated in a timely manner. We have to have those emergency numbers. Also on page 21, physical education excuses, there was a small change in wording from wishing to needing. Students would need to show that they need to be excused from PE, not just wanting to be. And let's see, on page 26, this also refers to our recognition for achievement. at the Quashnet School each term, we do recognize students for their achievement. In the past, we did talk about mastery, students performing at a mastery of 4 or proficient level of 3. However, we really feel that considering the growth mindset, that we're not looking at the rate of a student's achievement. We're looking at their effort, what they're putting into their own learning, that ownership piece. And we do recognize that at the end of the year at each grade level, but it's not about the rate at which a student is achieving a standard. It's that they get it at the end. So that's why we just want to take that one phrase out. And there is one other addition in here that, and I apologize, it's not on your list. It's page 34, and it's under the retention policy. And the change is just to update the fact that we no longer have child study, that we do have a PULSE team, which is the proactive update of learners in school environment. It's a team of the counselors, the administrators, teachers can also join us. It's the school psychologist, so it's just the change in name primarily. I also included, and the PULSE team and or special education team would review any of those retentions. And the following conditions under number 3 that may warrant consideration for retention. In the prior handbook, it did refer to failing content areas. However, we're really grading on standards. So A would read, grade level standards are consistently not being met, as opposed to failing. And that's that.
Any further questions? Nicole?
I just had one. I noticed, first of all, I thought we moved up school start times without me noticing, but the Quashnet hours seem to refer to when the doors open, but the other handbooks refer to actual start times.
Well, the students need to be in school, in their classroom at 8:15, or they're tardy. If we put in that it's 8:15, parent drop-offs start at 8, they'll come at 8:15, and then their students are automatically late. We put down the start time as when that door opens, because students can go directly to their classroom at 8 o'clock. And so really our hours begin at 8, but class session begins at 8:15. But I
It's
think
kind of
it's
confusing looking at the other handbooks, though.
Maybe you could add a line that just says, doors open at, which I saw in somebody else's book, at the 8 o'clock, 8:15 is the official start, and put something about you're expected to be, in your seat, because the buses at this school do pull in at 8 o'clock, and so they're all in and tucked in.
So on page 7 for school hours, I have school opens at 8 a.m., student dismissal 2:45. I could put another bullet there that class sessions begin at 8:15.
Yeah.
Would that clarify
Yeah.
that?
Well, I'm looking at these opening pages of the handbooks, which frankly some people may never get past, but
Right.
but they just don't match. They're just not consistent. So you could add that bullet if you'd like to, but if we refer to student hours as when students actually are in class, it should be the same, I think, across all the handbooks. I mean, I understand your concern.
It is concerning because tardiness is an issue, and students need to be in that classroom at 8:15. So students really do need to be here before 8:15. I
mean-
almost would rather
Well,
have
I mean,
school say
it's
8:05.
small. I mean, I think something like 93% of our kids ride the bus, so a lot of them will be there. But, when we're talking about posted start times, and these are
track.
reflected in our handbook, maybe we should make adjustments to Coombs and the Mashpee Middle High School to reflect when doors open, as opposed to when classes start. But right now, it just
Yeah.
looks.
I would propose that the addition be made to the other 2 handbooks, just because I do think it is important for students to and
Not back.
parents to know that they can be here then if they're going to be late to class.
So maybe if tardiness improves at both of those schools, you can take credit for that.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. But it is important to know we have approximately 100 students dropped off by parents every day. So
You have
that
a higher rate of,
we have anywhere from 85. Mr. O'Connor and I are out front every morning, and we've counted for about a 2-week span, and we have an average of about 85 to 95 cars per day.
So,
So,
Mr.
quite a few.
Pretty close to the middle school. Middle high school has
Yeah.
quite a few drop-offs
So,
too.
Mr. Bellistracci, when is the middle high school building open for students to arrive?
Buses, the first bus,
7 a.m.?
first bus is pulling at 7.
Okay. So
So we
basically
should probably
we should
update that.
probably put the building is open at X time.
Sorry, Mark.
Yeah, I think we'll be consistent in every school. So
Yeah.
building is open
Keeps
at
the middle
this.
child.
First bell is promptly at
8:15.
8:15 or 7:30 or
Right.
8:15.
Yep, I have no problem adding that.
But are you adding, so if it says school opens and at 8 o'clock, are you having where he says full day is 7:30 to 2, maybe student day 7:30 to 2? I don't know. I think you do need,
I think the three of us,
something.
possibly
Figure that out.
Principal Bellistracci and Principal Bell and I could meet and have our language consistent.
Yes.
So it does reflect that opening, the first bell,
yeah, that's
Right.
good.
although we don't have a bell, but yes, that idea. But we could have our language consistent. That's an easy change.
We lost the bell.
We don't have a bell.
Let's have the announcement.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Absolutely.
Do I have a
Thank you.
Motion to suspend the first reading for this? Jeff?
I move to suspend the first reading policy for the Quashnet, oh goodness, Quashnet School Parent Student Handbook 2017-2018 for the first read.
Second?
Okay. Motion by Jeff and a second by Chris.
Mr.
Nicole?
Chairman, I'd like to amend that motion to also include the Tennessee Coon School Handbook.
Oh, you don't want to do this again?
No, I just thought I might.
Yeah, second.
Slow down this marijuana
Yeah,
bit.
exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so we have an amended motion that covers both Casey Coombs and Quashnet. Okay. Yes.
Perfect.
Okay. Nicole?
Yes.
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 Yes. All right. Very efficient. Thank you, Jeff, or George.
Good job, George.
Pleasure.
All right. Casey Coombs?
Motion to approve the
Oh, I'm
Quashnet
sorry.
School
Oh.
Handbook as presented.
I'll second that. No further discussion. Nicole, how do you vote?
Yes.
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 Yes. Unanimous.
Sorry.
All right.
Okay.
Now, Casey Coombs, are you?
No, I thought, what was your motion?
to
Suspend the first reading.
Oh, for first and second. I thought we had.
You
So
thought
I'm
we
going to
were getting
present,
off of it.
I'm going to present for, Principal LaBelle is away on vacation this week, so I will do my best to present his changes. I don't think we need to really, he bulleted them, which is going to make it hard for me to count, but we don't have to talk about the change in the website address, the cover page. The principal's letter is only a change because of personnel. Same with what he shows on page 4, which I'm not sure if the numbering is correct on.
Doesn't look like it.
It's, I think the numbering, yeah, that looks right. They have done away with Coco's Fab 4 as part of their positive behavior approach and gone with the Falcon 5, which is a K-12 sort of mindset, and he added some kind of clip art. Hiring changes 7 and 8. Student day begins, so let's look at page 9. What does he have? Oh, see, that's where I read it. I knew I read it somewhere. He has his listed as school opens at 8 and student day begins at 8:20, which is correct, and dismissal. Page, let's see, Coco's Fab for reflecting. I also noticed though on page 9, under attendance, he has done similar wording to what Principal O'Brien discussed in terms of closely monitoring tardies and absences with the dates of the October 1st. And the other, I'm looking at the photocopy one. So the other light text is the same, except he is removing the unexcused. And then you'll notice, I believe there's 2 paragraphs that are the same. So I put an X through the darker one that needs to be taken out because he has regular and timely attendance. That whole paragraph is there
Twice.
twice. Yes, twice. So, what do we have? Page 11. We will be adding up on the top of page 11 the computerized system reference for notifying when there's no school. He has the same change in terms of notifying the school if you have a residency change with emergency contact information. That's down towards the middle there, and there's a missing period there. I did note that I'm not seeing in his field trip section about making sure that the data sheet is up to date, so I'm going to recommend that that doesn't get missed in that section on field trips, page 12. I didn't see it anywhere. And page 13, he's added the Alice, but I'm also going to recommend he needed to take out the code red drill heading, and it should be emergency responses, or emergency response, and then the rest would match. Page 16, that wording also matches with the Quashnet School's wording under the residencies and transfers. And the busing language, 23. He also added the but not more than 5 days. It doesn't exactly match the wording of Principal O'Brien's with the not exceeding, but it is up to but not more than 5 days. Yes. And even though that said page 25, it's page 23 for the busing language. Then the physical education language was on page 25. That matches up with the Quashnet School. And let's see, retention language is on 36. That's on 36. That also matches up with what Principal O'Brien just went over. Any questions? Not that I can answer them, but I'll try.
I have a comment, if I may.
Okay.
So the last thing I would like to discuss behind this table is residency policy.
Yes, me as well.
But the wording in this paragraph does not match the residency policy in the school district
Oh,
policies. I mean, I don't believe that we specify a bona fide residence in the policy. I just want to make sure that this paragraph matches this district policy.
okay. Page 16. We'll double check that and double check all 3 books. Let me see what does it say? Are you talking about the lighter text?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I know, I believe we spent a pretty extensive amount of time doing that paragraph in the policy, and I just want to make sure that it's exactly the same.
Okay.
Are you comfortable capturing all those changes and if we approve it?
Yes, I have them written on this master of mine that. Yep, thanks.
The one question which I know came up last year was in regard to the query checks for parents attending events that Casey Combs?
Just, oh, yeah, recently, this year.
Yeah, this past year.
I
So
think everybody at Coombs has now been coordinated. Pretty much.
Well, all the current ones are. but
Yeah.
We're probably gonna have the same,
Well, they're good for 3 years.
I know, but all the new kids. the
Yeah,
new
well,
parents.
I think it would be important at his open house, or particularly when they're doing some of the entry meetings for anyone new to the school or the kindergarten class of students, to make sure they have the form. And I mean, I agree with, the focus on safety, and if there's any opportunity where a child could be with an adult who's visiting for some reason without the close supervision of a school employee, that you have a concern there. So,
I guess my question was whether or not that needed to be part of the handbook or not,
all right.
because on the chance that a parent might read the handbook and might be aware of it up front versus finding out, would they have an event or?
Well,
I'd also
in
hate
his
to-
defense, I believe there was quite a few
I know, I'm just
communications about it.
over-communicating.
And some people came in that morning and we were quick. We had them done.
I know.
Yeah, it is faster.
I would hate to add more workload for the policy subcommittee, but I mean, should be that a district policy that we implement? I don't believe that's in the policy manual, but I'd have to double check.
I don't think it is.
I mean, is this something we need to make district-wide, that if you're, whatever the verbiage is in your,
Well, would it be a policy or
We
practice?
set a record for the number of policy
Yeah.
meetings in the month of July.
I would like to point out that Jeff was on the policy
Yes.
subcommittee.
Twice.
And is
Twice.
no longer on it.
Yes.
So now he's just.
No,
piling
I'm
on.
not. I really am not. I really, that's why I said that with kind of tongue in cheek to you. But I don't know if we have something like this where it's going to be. We're talking about all three handbooks, all three schools. Should it be a district policy? I'm only one of 5. I'm more than happy to sit back and say no.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not aware of it coming up with the Washington school. I guess it was only at Casey Coombs, but
Well, when you
should
have
it be the same?
new
as the
leadership
school?
brings
I know.
prior
Well, I know.
practices that
That's fine.
they like.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we should question our practices, and if we need to make changes, we need to make changes, but, I wanna make sure that if we are making changes, that people are aware of what those changes are, so that, as I said, they don't show up for something and find out that they quote unquote cannot attend,
Mhm.
because,
No, I got you. I mean-
that their son or daughter didn't take home a paper, or they weren't aware that they needed to, turn something back in. So I'm just trying to,
I can argue. You can argue both ways if it needs to be a practice or a protocol or a
Well, we actually
procedure.
do have,
Yeah.
we
So.
do have a policy. Remember, we kind of, in coordination with the fingerprint policy, so that it's less restrictive.
Mm.
So that one includes overnights, fingerprints.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then any kind of things like that,
Yeah.
these parties. So this would be a little more restrictive. We do have a policy that's.
Yeah.
We'll check in
Awesome.
the instance.
any further questions on the Casey Coombs handbook? If not, do I have a motion to approve the Casey Coombs handbook for FY18 as presented?
As amended.
As amended slash, okay. As, with changes discussed. Yeah. So,
That was the motion, yes.
that's a
Oh,
motion.
jeez.
I keep them brief.
I'll second that.
Just goes move.
Second by Chris. Unless there's further discussion, Nicole?
Yes.
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 And yes, unanimous. Thank you.
Hour and 5 minutes.
All right, I am going to, this
session.
is like
It's back on track.
speed dating, I'm going to go fast.
Go. Ding.
All right. Are we good if I start?
Yeah, go.
Okay. All right, so you have in your packet update on personnel. You can read it for yourself. You'll see in the little box, there are 4 paraprofessionals, 6 other positions yet to be hired. We do have a Title I coming in to meet me next Monday, a recommended candidate, and a math teacher at the high school is coming in on Friday, the recommended candidate. So you see italicized, which are the changes from the last time you saw this, which was in June. So that's just FYI. Any questions? Okay. Next up, a update on school choice. You have a chart. I think I handed it out. Yes. So you'll see each grade level, the total seats available, choice seats that you approved for FY18, and that is the original and then the amended number. Seats enrolled as of July 1, 2017, so we have completed the first period and those families have been notified. And then what remaining seats we have that are, the second window goes through July 31st. And so by August 15th, we should have determined anyone else taking a seat. And you'll see that so far for the second round in the window, we only have 1 applicant for grade 10 and 1 for grade 11.
Excuse me, Patty, the next time you present these, can you total the columns?
We can total the columns.
Just as you're reporting on school choice seats, it's nice to know. I'd love as a talking
believe-
point to know how many seats we
And
authorized, how many
I
filled.
believe this column, because I caught an error today, is 32. Because there was a separate email that listed names for the principals, and when I checked it, it was 32, so I went back to Gail, and so this is correct, and I believe that column of currently enrolled choice seats is 32, new ones, the
Okay.
new seats.
All right.
So, yes, we will total our columns.
Thanks.
And if you want to just note quickly where the asterisk is, we only had to hold 2 drawings. That's done by Mr. Funk. I shouldn't probably put that out there. He'll get the phone calls. But the interesting thing is, if you are a family who has a sibling who already, not now, but in the last year or a year before, is currently a choice student, they do get preference. So what we had to do in kindergarten, there were 3 siblings of already enrolled choice students. So since we only had 2 spots and we had more applications, only those 3 got to go into the drawing because that's how it is. And I believe I have a phone call to make to the other one because she's not happy with that. It is, But anyway, that's where we're at with school choice. Any other questions?
So we have a family who has a student in the system already who had a kid going into kindergarten.
Well, in the kindergarten situation, it was a person who attended. She wouldn't have been it. She didn't get to go in the lottery because she didn't have a sibling. But yes, there are older children already in the district as a choice student.
And so what happens to that family?
They need to enroll the younger child in the district where they live, and then next year, hopefully, get in. Now, I'm sure they could come up with another option. They may come to you. But,
Okay.
yeah.
Thanks.
Yep. Any questions on? Okay. Then we have an update on Camp Falcon, and I just really do want to start, for all those out there, to give a shout out to Mrs. Loiko, who does a tremendous amount of work with all of this from the very beginning back in the early spring, and monitoring everybody who sends in any interest and all the flyers home, and there's a lot to it. Now it's, and then once it starts, she does help get it off the ground. Beth Wonder is the administrative assistant who works at the camp to check people in and out, but it could not happen without the work of Mrs. Loiko, so thank you to Mrs. Loiko.
Thank you.
And, yes, did I give you this sheet? No, I didn't give you this sheet. All right, well, I'm going to read it then. First week, which is this week, there's 91 students registered. Approximately 80 attended day 1. We are still open to people joining up. And there are 14 staff members who are working, and there are 21 different activities. Not every staff member works every week, so it was really a nice way to have a teacher commit to it but not give up, 5 weeks of their summer. And so far it's going well. A couple of boxes in the hallways, but I'm all over that. It shall not be there tomorrow. But a lot of good activities, and it does work well with the extended school year program offered through the special education department. So anyone who has those services from 8 to 10 has that piece of their learning, and then there's the little 15-minute break and snack, and then they get to do another 2-hour activity through Camp Falcon, most of the kids. So that's a nice thing, and it just gives a nice feel to summer learning for everybody.
So 91, that sounds like a few more than what we had last year at the beginning.
Yeah.
Very similar to last year. I
Uh,
think that's it's pretty close.
Yeah, I was.
The actual ones registered, they didn't all show.
Yeah, okay. 'Cause
And-
I
yeah.
was thinking we had 88 or 86 last year.
Probably
something like
that actually came to camp.
Okay.
I just, for us, we just to get who was really registered and then to see how many actually came. So we,
Okay.
we'll monitor it as it
Right.
goes. This is the first week, so it's been pretty consistent this week, so pretty good.
And in terms of registrations for each of the other 4 weeks, it goes from 82 to 87, so it's pretty consistent
Right.
all 4 weeks. Yeah. So, okay. You also have in your packet the MOU between the schools and the DPW and the town. This is a document that was started on August 31st of 2016 and got signed on June 22nd. But what it does is really just provide some sort of structure and clarity and understanding so that we can work well together. And I know I had Gail create sort of a calendar with the different dates of who has to do what when, so we can make sure that everything's being met. The only thing we have yet to do is related to, on page 7 of this document, 21 in the packet, I guess. The rental revenue use of school equipment. I still have to meet with Catherine to I'd like to develop a new facility use form, and on that form there would be an additional charge if someone needed to use classroom technology that's using a space, or if they're using auditorium technology. We're just trying to have a piece of the monies collected end up with us for repairing some of the potential damage to equipment that might result. And it's not necessarily that we would charge the rec department or the town for using it, but we could if we so decided. It's mostly for the use of our school buildings by outside organizations, and just making sure the revenue now that those groups pay goes into the DPW budget, and they use it on the schools, but they choose what they use it on. And so if we need to make repairs to something that might have been accessed, we don't really have that revenue piece. So it might be like an extra $25 if you indicate you need to use the Clear Touch in a classroom, something like that. Depends on what it is, but that's coming. Hopefully it won't take me another year to get that done. So, any questions on this? There's a lot here. We did go over, trust me, every word has been looked at, and the principals were very much involved, the athletic director, members of the school committee at different times.
Yes.
But it's good. Questions? Okay, moving on. Okay, so the anticipated turn back, it's not a finalized number to the town of Mashpee, so by July 24th, the exact number will be known, but the current estimate is about $160,000 going back to the town. $52,000 is coming from the appropriation or expense side, and about $108,000 from salaries. And no salaries was moved on to the appropriation side. So approximately $160,000, but it could change. Darlene is still cleaning up and encumbrances to make sure we don't miss anything. So, but I'm pretty sure the salary side is pretty close to accurate, unless there was something somebody didn't get paid for that they're coming forward with, but they're pretty good at that. Questions?
How much of that are we going to use to buy furniture? Or
Oh,
We can't use
Well-
any of it anymore.
why not?
no, because it's after
Past the
July
deadline.
1.
It's too late.
Well, how convenient.
Yeah.
But I did say to Principal Balstracci today when I was up there that they all created sort of a 5-year facility plan of what they wanted done when, And that's part of our updating for next week, where did year one get done, and what do they have to shift? And I said we need to add a replacement plan for some of the classroom furniture, particularly teacher desks. And I will encourage teachers, they're supposed to have 1 2-drawer filing cabinet and 1 4-drawer. If we end up making those newer, they're only getting that many, and everything else is going out. If you haven't looked at it in a year, get rid of it. But we do need to move forward in that. Particularly teacher desks. Those are the worst things I've seen. Yeah. Cabinets, they just tend to wallpaper over them. Make them look good again.
Contact paper.
They hide the rust.
All right. Any questions on that?
Okay, just an FYI for is the organizational chart that is current. We will be filling in a dean of students when we have that. The solid line is sort of an indication of evaluation as well. So you can see that I will evaluate the principals and the director of special education, and Hope will be evaluating all the tech department people, as well as Lindsay Kett, the director of guidance and college and career readiness. Each assistant principal is tied to their principal, as well as the 4 positions that are tied under Mark. So that's that. Any questions? Okay. Update on the Quashnet School and also the air conditioning project at the high school. So according to DPW Director Catherine Laurent, the architectural plans are at the 60% stage, and the engineering will be at the 60% stage in 2 weeks by July 28th. The estimates related to any of that 60% work will be updated during the week of July 28th through August 7th. She has scheduled a subcommittee meeting within Mashpee with the project manager and the engineering firm for either August 9th or 10th. She said 14, but I know we're shooting for the 9th or 10th. They will review everything then. That's the meeting we've had a few of them where we decide choices, and so making sure that will be done. And that the 60% package will be submitted to the MSBA around August 18th. And I know that she still everything's on track for everything going out to bid in the fall. So. And then there is a planning and construction committee meeting. Is that the name of that?
That's correct.
That is on next Tuesday,
5:30.
5:30.
Pompanesett.
At the Pompanesett room at Town Hall, not at Pompanesett.
Yeah, right. Yeah, unfortunately not.
And I know that they'll be discussing the Quashnet project, as well as lists of capital improvements that were approved, or in total at the town
Right.
meeting.
Right.
And
The
Mr.
bond.
Gorman is attending
Yeah,
that.
I'll be there.
The bond, yes. And in terms of the high school, there were 3 upstairs classrooms that you approved to install air conditioning in them. I did look at them today. Their big unit is up in the ceiling, and that, according to Catherine Laurent, the job should be completed on Monday. They were not there today, but they were coming back tomorrow. So that's a good thing. I was hoping they would be ready for the superintendent's conference so that they could access those 3 spaces. They're clean, they look good, but they just need the rest. Is that it on that?
That's it.
Okay. And I'm done.
Okay, so unfinished business. We had talked at the prior meeting in regard to August 2nd, 2017 as being the school committee retreat.
That's
and
correct.
I know you were working on,
So we are going to go to the Riddle Room and bond. It's in Mashpee Commons. I'm not sure where.
Yeah, over by the new Cape Cod
It's
Coffee.
in the back.
Yeah.
Okay.
it's where?
Oh.
Past the new Cape
Behind
Cod,
the
Cape Cod
florist.
Cod
Coffee.
Coffee?
Right,
Yeah.
one building back. It's like in
Okay.
the basement.
It's back behind there.
Oh yeah,
Organic
the organic back in
Oh,
there.
it's behind that.
Yeah.
Organic market.
So you are
Riddle room?
asked
Riddle room.
the Riddle
It's like an
Room.
escape room?
No, it's not an escape room.
Well,
That would freak me out.
Sorry, it's a little.
I think anyway. So you need to be at the Riddle Room at 5:15. Our event starts at 5:30. We have chosen, like, totally the 80s to the max is the title of our riddle.
Perfect.
or our theme.
That is
Yes.
perfect.
George might be a disadvantage.
All right, so that's all on that.
All right.
Okay.
Next item is in regard to the mask joint conference for November. Reminder in regard to early registration, so that we can get a discount. So 15th is what, Monday, I
Yes,
believe?
you need to communicate to Gail Hannon
This
by
weekend?
tomorrow. She's not
Tomorrow.
in on Friday.
Okay.
This is her message. She's only heard from one of you as to your meal choices. Thank you,
Mm.
Nicole.
Tomorrow's the day.
You need
Got
to
it.
you need to get an email to Gail. She sent something out mid-June. If you're looking back
Okay.
on things. Okay, so you're not. You can't.
You're-
It's,
you're-
it's during the week.
Okay, so you're
Yes.
you're not able.
Usually Friday, Saturday, Thursday night, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Okay.
No, this is on a Wednesday, Thursday.
Is it?
Yeah.
Thursday, yeah.
Well,
It's
then that'll be different.
oh,
It's
you
usually
know what?
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, right? And then Saturday morning's only like a
it's-
half
Yeah.
day or
It's
something?
I have it. 1 sec.
Then that would be better.
When's
right.
Alberto's?
Yeah, it usually
Wednesday,
starts
2 meets
Wednesday
dinner.
afternoon.
Yeah, because there was a Wednesday dinner. I knew that. Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, then I will be able to attend. I'll check my email.
Tomorrow.
Yes, I will.
Okay.
With choices.
Yeah,
We're all
I'm
gonna
pretty
want
sure
that.
it starts on a Wednesday,
Okay.
Thursday, and into Friday.
Oh,
Does not go.
the-
Does it go on? Oh yeah. it
Yeah,
does
there's
have
a
Saturday
student
morning.
piece
Yeah, there's some
Saturday.
stuff Saturday morning.
Yeah,
I
I'll
don't
be there.
go there.
Yeah.
Okay.
November.
Yeah, you know, the dates aren't on that. I don't know that they're on that, the school committee's little Google calendar.
So if you can just either
Yeah.
yourself or have Gail
November,
send
right?
out a follow-up email
It's
to
November
everyone
1 to 4,
tomorrow,
basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
With the dates.
Yeah.
so that at least it'll pop up on everybody's email list at the top, okay?
Will you tell her to do that? 'Cause I
I
have a
will.
curriculum thing.
I
Okay.
will tell her.
Okay,
So do it first thing, and then you guys will be sponsored by noon.
Okay.
got it.
Maybe sleeping.
And the MAS Summer Institute, I know that several of you can't go, so I'm recommending that that be a non-issue.
That's the 28th and 29th.
It's a Friday night and a Saturday.
Yeah.
I will be in Bill Rick, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I-
And you can't go. So I say no to that.
I would,
Because if we're not all going together, I don't really want to go.
yeah, I think that's a
Okay.
fair assessment.
Cancel.
Maybe next year.
Okay.
All right, now to our next favorite topic.
My goodness.
School start
Oh,
time.
you want me? Oh, okay. So I was going to gather the members together, or also send out looking for new members to join the school start time committee. There's been a lot more movement from other districts. You almost can find something on a daily basis. So I think what I said to Dawn, where now we're riding the wave versus sort of being out front of the wave. But I liked what Nicole had said in Falmouth. They are approaching it totally from a health perspective. It's part of their subcommittee, health and
Their
wellness.
wellness.
Subcommittee of the.
But I thought I read something that they put that off at least for a year in Falmouth.
They voted to keep it the same for this school year. They
Right.
didn't, no change, but they did much what we did. They didn't vote down a change.
Okay, so they tabled it too.
Yeah. Yeah,
Because they were
so,
waiting on us.
yeah, so they're supposed to, but I've been told that they're gonna be taking it up
Okay.
again. Yeah.
Okay. So I had asked Superintendent DeBoer, you know, we had tabled this last spring because I believe the committee felt that we needed to get more information and more involvement from the parents in regard to this, because it didn't seem like we got a lot of response or activity from parents until it almost got down to us being in a position to be able to vote on it. So we wanted to be more proactive and try to do a better outreach as we revisit that, and also think about, you know, what's going on with other districts related to this. So, to her point, reformulating the committee, I think makes sense to get it started again. I did not know if the school committee had any guidance that they wanted to provide initially to the committee as to the school start time committee in regard to things that we were particularly looking for them to undertake as part of this new look at potential changes.
You should invite NOSIT, somebody from NOSIT.
There's,
I know they just
yeah,
approved
there's
it, yeah.
many more. I mean, we don't have to just stick to the Cape schools too.
Right.
We can get some other.
Can I?
And I know also last year Chris and I were members of that committee. I know Nicole, you've been involved. If you're wanting to be on the committee, I would defer to you because we can only have 2 school committee members.
I would like to be, if either of you would be interested in having me take your place.
It's up to you.
Are you adamant about being on?
I don't have to be on it.
I'll give up my seat.
So
Seems
it's
a little reluctant to give up his.
Yeah, well, he didn't. The big ball was started by this gentleman at the end of the table. So.
Don, that is?
Done.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I will.
The almost immovable object that is school start time. Yeah.
I've gone a couple months without bringing it.
No, you did a great job. No, I mean, I knew it was going to come back around. So. There's nothing
Well,
wrong with discussing things, that's for sure.
No, and obviously we're not looking to make any changes this coming year, but we have made changes or potential. We did make changes in some of our negotiated union contracts to be able to facilitate a change down the road if the committee so chose to. So, we're trying to line up the ducks in order to be in the best position to be able to consider this going forward. So, I guess if the consensus decision from the committee is moving forward and engage as many people in the public as possible to make sure that we get as much feedback and hear their concerns and try to address what we can, and then try to get this back later this fall or early next spring for a decision by the committee. And does that make sense to everybody?
Oh, well, it does. I think with one caveat.
Sure.
So you mentioned all the other districts that are looking at this, and there are a number of them on the Cape. I just wondered if one of the deficiencies of the last process was that we didn't have any resources dedicated to supporting the analysis, investigation, perhaps design of an implementation strategy. We have the Cape Cod Collaborative as a potential shared resource. I was just wondering if I might be able to talk to Paul Hilton about, employing a contractor or somebody who could help synthesize and analyze information from different districts and maybe kind of look at this a little more collaboratively. I mean, we're going to there have to be some economies of scale in terms of all these districts looking at this separately. And there are things that make us different from those districts, but for example, when I think about stepping onto that committee, a few things that I think about instantly are like, well, we should find out exactly who commented publicly identify those people, issue invitations to them to join the committee, do an analysis of the issues that were raised so that those are priorities for the, and you know, we all have day jobs. So I'm already thinking about things that are going to require time. So I just wondered what you guys thought about, you know, was the last process, to your mind, under-resourced? I mean, is there anything we can do to sort of provide some more capacity to this as a effort?
I mean, I think so. Obviously, there was holes in it because we didn't have enough information or weren't able to come up with an adequate plan to make it happen. I don't know what those resources would be, but you are correct. I believe there are. So if you can figure out what those are, you know, the whole committee, yourself, Don, and everybody else. But yeah, it's tough because there's so many different angles to look at it, and so many different, you know, family situations, and you know, so I hope you guys can figure it out, and I'd like to see a good plan happen, and I'd like to see it happen, but
I think one of the
Definitely
glitches
see a
still
resource.
remaining, so the bulk of the parents of younger children did not want to shift to later because they had to get to work. And so the last sort of what we thought we'd try for was the 8:30 high school, 7:30 elementary level. So there will be people that think it's too early for little kids to be at a bus stop. And then the high school, where I've heard from parents and students who want that later start, we still have to tweak out that end of the day piece for athletes. That seems to be a big problem where they would be missing more class because the day's still going on to leave for something because we have such a strange little group we play in Hull and everywhere. But those are still two areas. So I know you talked about gathering better information and through whatever method of so we could really know what we're looking at is really a good base from our parents. And we have to interact with our businesses too, and everyone else that relies on that routine, and change is hard, so we need to.
Yeah, I mean, even if you were to do some additional data collection, that too should be resourced. I mean, we should do a proper survey, and that takes a little money, just in terms of paper and postage and effort and data
like
entry.
You say,
and-
once that survey is done from the collaborative, it's something all the districts could use. We're all looking and finding and stealing from other people who've done it where it should be done. The same, particularly for
correct me if
collaborative.
I'm wrong, I felt anyway that towards the end of that it wasn't necessarily a health and wellness pushback from people. I know some of them seem to use a lot of it as an excuse to not want to do it, but I think it's more of a strategic thing. That's the feeling I got. But we got to the point where we were getting enough information out there, and a lot of people understood and bought into why, for the medical reasons and the health reasons and the psychological reasons. But because strategically it wasn't working out for so many people, a lot of times they would use that as fallback, or we just couldn't make that piece of it work.
Mhm.
And that's the feeling I got behind it, that it wasn't necessarily so many people that, of course, there were some that just didn't care or didn't understand the health benefits. It was the strategic piece of it that just kept falling apart.
And you know me, I have a very strange philosophy about a lot of things, and I think we're starting the process now so much smarter
Yeah.
than last time. I mean, me personally, it's just my opinion. We rushed the decision. We rushed the plan. We were missing data, and you know, the implementation didn't match the data. And that's not finger pointing. I'm just saying that's what we did. Now we know that that's not the way to approach it. And I mean, I don't know how I feel about consultants. I'm not a huge consultant fan. I do think economy of scale is important, and I think there's a lot of smart people out there. I mean, who knows what Falmouth has got put together? You know, Falmouth has got put together that information. We don't need to reinvent that wheel. So I think there should be some outside collaboration, and hopefully it doesn't cost too much money because we're
So,
not in the.
so I would suggest this. Let's have the superintendent reformulate the working committee, which consists of school committee members, health professionals, teachers, administrators, etc., and parents and students. Reconstitute that committee, and at least have a re-kickoff meeting, and then that can be discussed in regard to resource needs, so that then the superintendent can come back to this committee with some ideas in regard to resources that may need to be added to help that committee do its job correctly, and if there's potential cost, what that potential cost could be. Does that make sense?
It does. Are you thinking that we could invite people to that initial meeting that have not been a part of the committee before?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's fine.
We'll reach out to all of those who did speak.
Yeah.
As well.
I think that's important. I don't want us to appear like we're having a meeting and reconstituting this without including them at the outset.
And I would want to give anyone who's been on the committee an opportunity to get off if they want to be on it.
Right. Yeah.
They've learned their lesson.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think previously we excluded anyone.
No.
Not very many
No.
people.
Well, and we used to
were
have guests
interested
come.
in
Anybody
doing-
could come, even if they
Yeah.
weren't on the, officially on the committee.
But I think it makes sense for us, so that, because we will once again find that the calendar not being our friend if we don't get moving forward on looking at this again, so.
Yeah, and I think you'll find some people aren't interested anymore because their kids are,
Yeah.
yeah,
In a different place.
yeah. So
Yep.
I think we'll have some new people.
New people will be interested.
Yeah.
Should be interesting.
All right, I will do that.
All right,
Yep.
thank you.
Patty, is that something you're likely to do before the school year?
I would like to, only because that's easier.
Excuse me.
Like August would be nice.
Okay.
So, does that not work?
No, I just, it's a tough time to try to get people.
Yeah.
But
Well, we could do it within the, maybe the second week of September too, when everybody's back in the groove, because it might be hard to get staff that doesn't want to come in for it either.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
All right, we'll
you're
do
you're probably looking at right after Labor Day. to-
Yeah, we'll do
to
an
try to
after-
do
You're
it.
off then?
After Labor Day. Okay.
All right, moving on, wellness policy first read, pages 25 through 32.
So
Uh,
we did, just to, a little background, so Stacy Shackle nursed Stacy at the Coombs School, and George Schmidt and I met, sort of first through Health Advisory, and then the next day, the policy subcommittee of Nicole, Chris, and myself met. So what you have in front of you, you have black and white one, so on page 3 of the wellness policy, the top 4 bullets represent updated data, not exactly matching George what Stacy had given, because Nicole also found some good sources.
Okay.
So, but our data in the past was old, and this is more up-to-date data. So those 4 bullets represent sort of a rationale, justification based on more current data as to why we need to focus on the wellness of our students and staff. Any questions on those, or do you want to read them? No? Okay, good. All right, then on page 6 of the wellness policy, there are 2 places that we added during regular school day hours. So in the first paragraph, the very last sentence, all foods made available on school property during regular school day hours will comply. And then the 5th bullet starts with during regular school day hours, soda, sugary drinks. The rest is the same. So those are the only changes on that page, was adding that phrasing. And on page 7, this was not actually talked about with George's health advisory or in the policy subcommittee, but it was when Gus Stickley came in when I was doing something on this, and he brought up the change. He said, there's a change we should make about bottled water. So on page 7, bottled water will be available for students at meals for an additional cost. That needs to be taken out with the wording below. At all schools, water is available for students at meals at no cost. At the Quashnet School and at the Mashpee Middle High School, bottled water is also available to students for an additional cost. So they don't get bottled water at the Coombs School. But everyone can get free water with a cup. So we're taking out the one line and putting in the other one. Water's available all the time, but this is talking about mealtime. Okay, and I think that's it. Oh, that's it for the changes to the wellness policy. Questions?
What is a competitive food?
For sale, I think. What page is that?
Page 5 of the actual policy under nutritional guidelines. In addition to school breakfast programs, competitive foods and beverages sold or provided to students. Blah, 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 blah.
I think it's stuff that's sold in addition to the foods and beverages sold.
I was just curious. I had no idea what that line meant.
It's anything that they have to buy,
Okay.
I believe, like in a machine or from the cafeteria.
My only comment about the policy, if I may, Don, is it seems like we do a lot of words but don't put a lot of like meat to it. No nutritional pun intended. Like for example, under physical activity goals, we have physical activity should be integrated across the curricula. I mean, we don't want to say how we're going to implement that this many hours per week or.
I don't think you want to, well, personally, I think this should be sort of broadly worded. I don't think you
Okay.
want to constrict where then we're in violation of not meeting that. I know you're saying up the ante and hold ourselves to a higher standard.
Well, there is no standard, right? I don't think DESE has a standard for physical education. It just says it has to be in the curriculum. So, and I'd be more than happy to be proved wrong, but I don't think they designated an amount of hours. I know there's a lot of hours recommended, you know, some people say 150 a week.
There is on the elementary level, there is a prescribed amount, so we have always counted PE class once every 6 days and recess 25 minutes a day. And that met the requirement at the elementary level. They don't have the same at the high school level.
I tried to prepare for the meeting by going to the DESE website, and there was no mention of any required hours for physical education, just that it has to be in the curriculum. So I didn't know if we needed to, it's a policy, it's for our wellness, we should, you know, so, you know, really what is our policy then? If it's 25 minutes a day plus an hour of, is it 45 minutes? How long is PE? 45 minutes plus 5 times 25. Don't make me do the math. You know, then that's, okay. All right. But I guess that would be restricted.
Yeah, I mean, it's a valid point. You know, we go and labor over the fact that they can't have flavored water.
Yeah.
You know.
We don't designate in Mashpee how many hours a week we expect kids to have PE.
Right.
You know, or physical activity.
Physical activity within the school day.
Right.
Because that's what we can, you know, we control the school day. So, but wouldn't that fall under the curriculum policy?
Well, there is the expectation. Yes, but there are a lot of ways for, in instructional practices, it would fall in there in terms of, you know, not having kids sit for more than, you know, 10 or 15 minutes at a time without them having an opportunity to move around, which is good instructional practice. So, like,
and the physical activity part and the physical education part are together, you know, I mean, because teaching someone how to properly stretch is physical education.
Right.
But they're not necessarily going and doing recess. So I got all that. I was just curious because it also goes to, if I may, to the eating environment part. we say the National Association of State Boards recommends. Well, that's cool that they recommend that, but what's our policy? You know, that was my only, like, general comment about the wellness policy. So what is our policy for lunch as a district?
Well, elementary, they're all 25 minutes, but there's a little wiggle room in terms of lining up, so.
Right.
Trust me, sixth graders are fully completing lunch in 10 minutes, and there's 10 minutes.
10 minutes of talk.
for
Yeah,
fun.
exactly.
Is it on the student handbook? If I remember right, the
That lunch?
On the upper lunch and all that. I think that's spelled out specifically.
It's in the
student handbook.
contract in terms of like
no.
teachers, 25
Right.
minutes, but yeah.
Oh, yeah, eight.
So everything, I mean, if a teacher has a 25-minute lunch, kids are gonna have at least that because you need a teacher to pick them up.
Mhm.
So,
Thank you.
All right, other comments on first read? Do you have a motion to accept the first read of the wellness policy?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by George, second by Chris, to accept the first read. Nicole?
Yes.
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 And yes, so it's unanimous.
and
know
can
you
I
won't.
add- well, I suppose it doesn't. My only concern too, again, and it's all timing, is this is part of every school's handbook. So now they can't really finalize a handbook till August,
Mm.
because this is part of it.
Does it have to be part of it? Can I have a separate wellness policy?
You could, well, we tried to put it all in one place. We can reissue it separately when maybe they'll actually read it if it's separate, after that.
It's at the very end of the.
You know, it's a
yeah.
shorter, easy
Yeah,
read
yeah.
like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, really, we don't produce hard copy handbooks except for the incoming grade of a school.
Mm.
I don't even know if we do it for seventh, but I know they do it for third, and I believe they do it for the kindergarten. Everyone else is online, so it's not hard to change.
All right.
So yeah, leave it.
We'll wait.
Yeah.
All right, next is a first
Policy
read
subcommittee
of
meeting,
the
all right.
school choice policy. It's in your packet, page 33.
All right, so you have in your packet, you'll see on number 1, 2, and 3 stay the same. Number 4, and this was what we accomplished in the policy subcommittee meeting with Nicole and Chris. So we're taking out, in that fourth paragraph, there will be 2 drawings for this purpose, and then we're putting a colon, going down to where it's underlined, 1 time prior to July 1st and 1 time prior to November 1st. That's in the law. It doesn't matter which November or July you're thinking of. And then we've added, any sibling of a student already enrolled as a school choice student shall, upon application, receive priority for admission to the program. Now, that's already in the law. Do we have to have it there? No, but you might as well have it there, particularly for parents looking up this policy. And so there's removal of some text there. And then we added number 5. After August 15th, any unfilled school choice seats may be allocated to applicants on a first-come, first-served basis until the last day of school for students, and then renumbered number 6 and 7. I did have Gail call other districts who, to see if they leave unfilled seats open all year. Falmouth does a cutoff of August 1st, with the only exception for current student, and the principal makes the decision. I still think you have to have a choice seat there. But Barnstable, Truro, Nauset, Wareham, Bourne, and Monomoy all stay open until the seats are filled. Sandwich and DY, she couldn't get a hold of, people are on vacation, so, but that's pretty consistent that they all leave it open.
So who was it again that leaves it open?
Barnstable, Truro, Nauset, Wareham, Bourne, Monomoy.
Thank you.
And she didn't hear from Sandwich or DY. And then, related to this question, did I give you this one?
Mhm.
Tuition waivers, yes. That has a total to it on the chart. When we were meeting as a subcommittee on the policy, the question came up as to how many people in the past, if we had had school choice seats available, who came to you needing to ask for a tuition waiver, could we have moved in? Now, this is not saying we had seats in those grade levels, but for FY16, you did 12 tuition waivers, and for FY17, you did 17 tuition waivers. That's a lot. So, based on what you saw in those school choice numbers, we could be sitting there with, quite a few seats if there becomes a problem for a current Mashpee kid who needs to move to another town. We can just move them over to the school choice. Depending on when it takes place during the school year, you might not get the total 5,000, but you're going to get something.
And we're hoping, what we discussed in the policy committee was, we're hoping that by leaving these seats open, those numbers might fall.
Right.
So that might be a good measure of whether this was an
Yeah,
effective
you'd only have
change.
glitches where, we don't have any choice
No
seats
choice
left.
seats,
and
right.
So you'll probably still get some.
We get a pretty good track record about taking care of those students.
Okay. Further discussion? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
I move to approve the new school choice policy as presented.
First read.
I'm sorry. Move to accept as first read as presented.
Second.
Hearing no further discussion, Nicole?
Yes.
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 And yes, so it's unanimous.
I didn't even barely hear you. I'm just messing with George. Huh? It was very nice. I appreciate it. I know it was partially my problem, my
All
fault
right.
that you had to get through.
I hate to ask, but I will ask. Any other matters that haven't been brought to the school committee's attention at this point, from subcommittees, et cetera, that need to be brought forth?
This is just a handout. You should read. This is the proposal, if you so chose to have, you can just take one. If you are at all interested in having MASC do that policy review of our manual, it was last done in 2012. We don't have to discuss this tonight. You can read the whole proposals right here, including the cost, which can be spread out over 3 years. So I think we could put this, if you want to, put it on, or not. If you choose, we'll put it on the next agenda.
All right, well, we will add this to the agenda for the next meeting. 10,500, okay. Any other items? George?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, 3 things actually of interest. The second open house at the Mashpee Health Center was last evening. There were over 15 outside agencies there, and over 20 people assisted, some with multiple problems, with various agencies there that were able to assist. The next one will be just before it will be the first Tuesday of the month, which will be August 1st is the next meeting. Secondly, I attended the meeting of the Finance Committee. I did tell them that I didn't expect it to be, money turned back would be under 6 figures, so that'll be a pleasant surprise to them. That is $160,000. Last time I talked with Paul, I was pretty certain it was going to be under that amount, so the $160,000 will be well met. The general feeling is that it's going to be a level funded budget, so we may want to ask Paul to make up something, nothing too detailed, but how bad is it going to be if it is level funded? And another one, just top line, what does he think we really need for next year? The indication I got from Rodney when talking with him a couple of months ago was that he didn't say this specifically, but kind of indicated that it's going to be tight times this coming budget year also. So I may as well get prepared for it. And the third thing was a presentation at the Substance Use Task Force. It was put on by federal government, actually a captain from HRSA, Health and Human Services. A lot of discussion, particularly as it related to the tribe, but one thing that I asked a couple of questions on, but it might be interesting for us to follow up on. We could, there is such a thing as a school-based health center which could employ a nurse full-time. It is paid for by the federal government, and I'm wondering if that might at a minimum solve our problems in terms of substitute nurses. I do not know who the person would report to, whether it's not to the district, up through the district chain, but it might be something worth looking into.
Is that a federal grant? Or?
Federal grant money. It came up rather late, and the gentleman, the captain had to leave, so I only get a couple of questions on it, but
We'll look
it
into
might be worth looking into. It's free. Always a magic.
There's that magical word.
Magical word. No cost also works. That's it.
Anyone else?
I could stretch it out to make them turn.
All right. Moving on, then the next item is we're going to be going into executive session for purposes to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with Unit A, from which we will not return to general session. So, do I have a-
So moved.
Thank you. I have a motion to move to executive session. Do I have a second?
Second?
And I have a second by Chris. Nicole, how do you vote?
Yes.
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 And yes. All right, we're in executive
One would
session.
assume I'm not going to be in this.